Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We hope you're keeping very, very safe and well. Thank you so much for joining us with instant post-match analysis to Tottenham Hotspur beating Leicester City at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I'm delighted to be joined by my co-host Lee McQueen, along with two of our returning guests on the Last Word on Spurs. If you're listening to the show for the first time, you can find us on iTunes. We're on Spotify. We're on Audio Boom. We're across a range of different audio platforms. We're, of course, on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We're on Facebook and Instagram too. And yes, this husky voice is unfortunately the unfortunate of a Newcastle stag do, which I'm still trying to get over, and then hence going to Spurs, and then hence seeing the West Ham result against Arsenal. So much to come, but let's get straight into it. Delighted to have alongside me, as I mentioned in the intro, I've got my wonderful co-host, Lee McQueen, in the house. Lee, how are you?
Again on Rick, again on lads, listeners, viewers, a bit of catnip, Rick. I'm not quite sure what's going on there, fella, but you're going to get battered in the comments for your escapades over the weekend, I'm sure. But back to the football, I'm obviously delighted to be back. Feels like ages. It's only been a week. A few of my Twitter followers banished me because we started losing and drawing games when I come back. But I'm glad we're back to be winning ways. So yeah. It was exactly what we needed today, and we got what we needed. So happy days.
Absolutely, I totally agree. And it's lovely to bring back two of our returning guests to the Last Word on Spurs, and lovely to have them on after a win, because we haven't been able to say that a lot in terms of the last few weeks with Spurs. First up, we've got consultant, interviewer, filmmaker. We've got Leon Mann, MBE, back on the Last Word on Spurs. Leon, lovely to have you here. How you doing, my friend?
How you doing? You well?
Not bad, my friend. Yourself?
Yeah, really, really good. Nice to be on after a win. I think I was on before after a Chelsea game, so that was all a bit depressing. So it's nice to be back on, and it's going to be an interesting end to the season. But I'm sure we'll get right into that a bit later.
Leon, when you say Chelsea, you can just stop there because we all knew what that result meant. We don't obviously do Chelsea at the moment with Spurs. So yeah, that's the nature of it. And also pleased to have him back on the show, caused and brought a lot of laughter on the last time he was on. We've got the brilliant activist, TJ Ramini. TJ, love to have you back on, my friend. How are you?
Hello, mate. It's nice to be here. Lovely to join you boys. And after a win, and I can't remember who we just played on the last episode that I was on, but I know we'd won as well. So Lee, if you're bringing like a negative energy, perhaps that I could help to address that balance here, my friend. But yeah, nice to be back.
I love to have you back. Thank you so much, TJ. I must also just say today, bearing in mind of just how much I'm suffering at the moment, a massive thank you to all the lovely people that come up to me at the ground today and gave me their love for Last Word on Spurs. Honestly, so humbled by so many of you coming up and telling me how much you love the show. Honestly means so much. I think it's fair to say it's been a tricky season, although Spurs are going into the last 4 games now with still Champions League football to fight for. I know many already feel they know how that outcome is going to go. But listen, there's been twists, there's been turns all season. So I want to say don't write us off just yet. Don't write us off just yet. Lee, let's start the show with you because for Spurs, and we'll come on to the top 4 in general, it was a much-needed 3 points. Romero, outstanding. Son, devastatingly clinical. Kane with some lovely flashes of brilliance. I mean, I know many will give Son the mentions for the game, but I think Kulusevski, for me, changed the game when he came on and allowed us to keep the ball, beat players and caused a few more problems for the opposition. Lee, what did you make of that win earlier today at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium over Leicester City?
Absolutely buzzing for it. We got into the Beaver Town pretty early today. I'm on the Laser Crush, which I have to recommend it. I'll be honest with you, it's non-alcoholic IPA, and it tastes a little bit non-alcoholic, if I'm honest, but it's very nice indeed. So I'm 5 weeks dry now up until May. So no alcohol for me until the Laser Crush. So I'll be hitting the Laser Crush. And the match I thought was good. Like again, I echo the thoughts you said, Rick. We had a lot of people coming out and meeting with us and stuff. Some of the other lads from Last Word on Spurs were in there today as well. So look, the support is ridiculous. We absolutely love it. So thank you so much. Appreciate that. And up in the South Stand, I'm a little bit hoarse, not as bad as Rick, because that's probably because he's been at his stag or his mate's stag. But yes, trying to sing, get the crowd going. It's a little bit flat. I'll be honest with you, it's a bit flat to begin with. And probably after the first 7-8 minutes or so, I thought Tottenham started okay. And then Leicester started to get back in the game and you started to worry. And the thing that worries me the most about the way we're playing at the moment, under Conte, under Nuno, under Jose, obviously it's a lot different under Conte, but he's still happy for the opposition to have the ball. And whether or not that's because I've been a Tottenham fan for, I don't know, best part of however long it is, like 30 odd years or whatever, and my disposition is always a nervous one, I just don't think you can have control of a football match when you haven't got the ball. That's just me personally. So when we haven't got the ball, I feel like that, we're out of control. Even though Leicester, to be fair, they had 2 shots on target, obviously scored one late on, which was a bit of a nothing goal in the end. But the reality is that when you haven't got a football, I don't think you're in control. And that's what makes us certainly me, a little bit nervous. But we let Leicester come back into the first half and come into the game. And it was a little bit flat. I mean, scoring from a corner, from a set piece is unbelievable. I mean, I turned to my mate, Colza, I was sitting next to today. Hello, Colza, I know you're watching, mate. And I said, can you believe that Manchester City and Liverpool, how good they are, how different class they are? They've got the most set piece goals between the two of them, their first and second rankings this season. That's incredible. So for us to score a set piece goal, I thought was a bonus. To be fair, quite interesting. But there's certain things in the team that I mean, I could probably go through, and I'm sure we will throughout the show, and have a look at everybody and say, oh, they were good and they weren't. But the glaring obvious thing for everybody watching today is wing backs. And actually, if we get 2 world-class wing backs, I reckon we can challenge for stuff. Even with all the personnel that we've currently got, it's not necessarily, I'm not lambasting Sessegnon or Royale per se. It's just we have to get wing backs that are specialised in playing how Conte wants them to play. And I think we saw that with Doherty before he got injured. And I can't believe him saying that. I mean, Tyler's like rolling her eyes probably if she's watching me now talking about Doherty, but he started to get the plot, didn't he? Just before we got injured, and we've missed him. And Sessegnon started to get the plot, and then he got injured. And Gillon and Royale, and the 4 that we've got that are playing in that position, they all need to be upgraded to a certain degree. So I think once we've got that sorted, we could go places for sure next season. But look, I'm buzzing. We're in the mix. It's still in our own hands. It is going to be massively tough next week. But we've done the business again today. And, on another day, we could have probably scored possibly another 2. I think we had 7 shots on target today. So, but possession for me, lads, I'd like to open it up to Leon, to TJ, to you, Rick. Like, what's your thoughts on the possession? Because I think Everton proved today that you can have 22% possession and still win a football match. But it's quite nervy, isn't it?
I was massively concerned by the opening 20 minutes. I got to be honest with you. I just felt, if we're going into these final 4 or 5 games, and these are meant to be cup finals, or as we call them on here, FA Cup 5th round ties, because Spurs don't win cup finals. I was massively concerned by the opening 20 minutes and just how flat we was, how lethargic we were. We just didn't seem to get going. And that was my concern that, I've got to be honest, the crowd, in that first 20 minutes, you can hear from my voice also, which was part of the effect. We were trying to roar, and I know you, Lee, as well, was trying to roar and cheer the team on to give them that 12th man, that first 20 minutes, because Spurs was so quiet and didn't really get going. But when I look at the teams now, I look at Liverpool, I look at City, those teams absolutely thrive under pressure. You've got Spurs and Arsenal, that bunch for me. These teams, they will under the pressure. I know Arsenal have won today and obviously Spurs have won. But when you look at the results during the season where if Spurs and Arsenal took those games in their hands, one of us would have been walking the top 4 by now. It wouldn't even be a competition. So, I mean, Lee, I agree with many of what you say there. TJ, just want to come around to you. I mean, listen, Spurs get their Champions League hopes back on some form of a track. I know, again, Son, the real star of the show with 2 goals in that second half. I mean, listen, the wonderful goal he scored the second was absolutely incredible. There was a few still shaky moments and there's things obviously to still work on. But do you think we can use today to take momentum into those final 4 games of the season?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that there's so much wisdom that's spoken on this podcast, and not only by yourself and Lee and the guests that you have, but also these people that are constantly pinging in with these comments. There's a lot of wisdom that surrounds this podcast, and I think one of the things that we've talked about a lot is that we're sort of stuck in between 2 identities at the moment. It really hurt us. The Nuno and the Jose era really hurt us of this idea. Well, let's sit back and catch them on the break. We kind of, and I understand why we played like that, capitalizing on the fact that you have this unbelievable player in Harry Kane, who is a phenomenal number 8, phenomenal number 9, and phenomenal number 10. So by having him kind of play all over the place, almost like that sort of freestyle role that Gareth Bale played, towards the end of his Tottenham career, and then of course utilising not only Sonny's blistering pace, but also the fact that the guy just doesn't miss. He's so good one-on-one, and so we turned into a real counter-attacking team. And then when Conte came in, and we were like, let's get our wing-backs flying forward. And Lee, I mean, mate, you're absolutely right. Those two positions are just absolutely pivotal to us, and not to take a dump on Royal or Reggie or Doherty or whoever, but they're just not up to snuff. And I know Conte came in the press this week and he said he thinks that Sessegnon can be like a top class player. I'm never going to argue with Antonio Conte, but I don't see that. I don't see it at all. But if we can get those positions sorted, I think we can start to play in the way consistently. And I'm not talking about game to game. I'm also talking about minute to minute within the game. We can play consistently how Conte wants us to play and believes we can play. I was watching the game today, and then you just see, we often talk about how players lapse in concentration. In what I can see is that they lack belief. Like, you'll try a couple of things or play how Antonio's wanting them to play, like obviously how he's got them playing day after day in the training ground, and it works. And then it doesn't work, and they lose belief, they lose confidence, and they just like chuck every man behind the ball. So yes, I think a couple of players, I agree with you, brother, that we can challenge if we bring in a couple of quality players in those key positions that will galvanize the Conte system. But also what that will bring is that adamantine, unwavering, unbreakable belief that we are good enough to play this system and win games playing that system.
Yeah, agree. That's some great points. I mean, Leon, I'll bring you in. Again, Heung-min Son will rightly take the bow today for his wonderful goal, and obviously one of two. Romero, as I mentioned, we'll bring on to it in more detail. Of course, he was outstanding. Kulusevski making a big difference when he came on. Kane continuing this almost, how can I put this? This relationship with Leicester where he just loves scoring, of course. And, I think, again, when you look at today as a whole, the most important thing, of course, at this stage of the season, business end, is winning. Yeah. I think we'll put the performance to one side because it is just all about the 3 points. But how do you feel personally on the performance that you've seen today, Leon, from Spurs?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was okay. Honestly, I thought it was a solid 6.5 out of 10, if I'm being completely honest, against the Leicester B team. So I wasn't over the moon at the end. I think Son's goal lifted it, and that's what we'll all remember, because what a cracking goal that was. I don't think Son was amazing today, but I don't think anyone outside of Romero was amazing. I mean, those 2 tackles that he put in today for the goal were sensational. Give him the assists, Football League, Premier League fantasy people, whoever manages that, because really those 2 tackles just gave us the momentum, pushed us up the pitch, and made it happen for that first Son goal, I think it was. So I thought today, it was clearly much better than Brentford and Brighton, of course. I do kind of worry that teams, obviously, after what Potter did against us in terms of taking all of that space that Kane has when he drops into, Brentford did exactly the same, squeezed that. Leicester today, I think, were half interested, if I'm completely honest. They're completely kind of thinking about their big game coming up. We've talked about the wing backs. Right wing back is just like a massive issue. However, I think everyone identifies that, and certainly Conte must know that. So, I'd like to think that Fabio's out there having a good look around a number of different options. So I think there's clearly going to be some movement in that area. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, but the hero today for me was Romero, I think.
Absolutely. It's phenomenal. Yeah, what a player.
What a player. It's a funny one with him because he's got this ability. Look, I think he's got a ricket in him every game. He gives the ball away in a position that is really dangerous every game, but he doesn't let it impact him. Sanchez gives the ball away somewhere, and that's his. Head's gone for the rest of the game. Dyer, head's gone for the rest of the game. Ben Davis, similar. Romero, it's hold my beer. I'm cool. Give me the ball again.
Yeah.
Play out from the back.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And that is the difference between a very good player and a world-class player. And I do think
Can we also add to that, Leon? I mean, and chaps, the difference that he has made to Eric Dyer and Ben Davies.
Yeah, I mean, he's brought them up a level, isn't he? Unbelievable.
Because I agree that that's also something that a world-class player does. He has tremendous influence on those playing around him, especially if you play in the same or a similar position. Like, who would have thought Ben Davies was such a terrier? Gentle Ben. How many years we called him
6
Gentle
out of 10
Ben?
as I call him. Yeah.
Lovely 6. Every
it was
time.
a good 6.
Gentle Ben. And all of a sudden, yellow card, Gentle Ben getting involved, pushing people. The fact that Romero just refuses to ever let an attacking player turn. I refuse to let you turn. If you turn, you're going to have to wrestle me to the ground. You might get away with it. You might not. You might get a foul. I might get a foul. But Dyer was bang, hammering people on the halfway line. Ben Davies, bang, hammering. And that's made a massive difference to us. We were never a nasty team. And for me, that isn't nasty. That's the level that you have to play at when you're especially playing in the Prem, which is so fast and so physical. If you're not prepared to do that as a centre half, get out of this league.
Agree. I am absolutely loving TJ with the back with the back. I've missed this so much. I'm loving it. And I know people on the last show, they loved it, and we've got it back for a good hour or so we're going to enjoy it as much as we can. Listen, I know many people, of course, and listen, we're going to talk about the win obviously in detail today, but obviously a lot of today is overshadowed by, of course, this race for the top 4. So I mean, let's get into it, because I just want to see where everybody's thoughts are right now. Lee, let's come over to you. I mean, Arsenal, they've taken 9 points from the last 3 matches, fixtures in which Tottenham took 0 and didn't score a goal. And if we're going to be honest about it, this stage of the season, it's all about results. It's all about performances. Yes, I'm still frustrated and angry by the fact the way Chelsea's selection went, by the fact they played the worst United side in 20 years, by the fact with West Ham today, although West Ham have, put out a fairly decent side, in the second half they bring Antonio on and they create less than what they did when he was on the pitch. So I couldn't quite work that out. So Lee, where do you honestly now see the race for the top 4? Because I think that's what everybody now really is talking about and wants to know before we do dive into the game in a bit more detail.
I'm interested to know where Stefan thinks it is as well, because he made a comment earlier that I was delusional about if we got wing backs, we could challenge for stuff. So he's going to think I'm delusional now if I say, oh, hang on a minute. I think we might get the top 4. So it'd be interesting to see your views. Don't go anywhere, buddy. I can see you in your comments. I think we can get top 4. I absolutely think we can get top 4. I'll put it this way. Can Arsenal win 7 matches on the trot? Because that's what they've basically got to do or need to be able to do, the first task. I don't think they can do that. So we have to beat Arsenal at White Hart Lane, right? We at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We have to beat them. Simple as that. Regardless of whatever else happens, we have to beat them. So the next question for me, if you're worrying about all the other teams, and this is going to be my long-winded point, but I'm going to get round to it, is if Arsenal beat Leeds, or when Arsenal beat Leeds, because they will, and when we lose to Liverpool, which is very likely, I think we've had in 59 meetings in the league against Liverpool, we've beaten them twice at Anfield. I mean, do the math, right? Work it out.
Yeah.
So strange things have happened, but
we obviously City. I know many will point that out.
City's bogey team, though. Let's be honest about it, right? We are their bogey team, and definitely not Liverpool's. So we conceivably, before the North London derby, are going to be 5 points behind Arsenal. This is the worst case scenario from the position that we're in at the moment. So we are going to need another team to do us a favour. Simple as that. But on paper, as it stands, if we win all of our matches, we get top 4 as it is at the moment. So I don't think you can be defeatist. And now people say, no, we're being real. Like, it doesn't matter about being real. It's, can we win? Can Tottenham Hotspur win 4 matches on the trot? Can we do that? Yes, is the answer. We can do it.
You're absolutely right, Lee. I mean, listen, if you try to employ pragmatism when you're talking about football, you're fighting a losing battle. This idea, like, we have to be real, or we have, there is no reality. You're talking about football here. Like, Everton just beat Chelsea today.
But exactly. Burnley just taking 10 points out of the last 4 games when they were literally couldn't win any type of point. So I think
Exactly.
that
we did the double over Manchester City. If we played Manchester City every week, they'd get relegated and we'd win the league. So please spare us your pragmatism. This is.
Look, I think the
reality.
reality is, though, guys and listeners and viewers, right? We have to concentrate just on our own, and we won today, regardless of whatever else it is. We won today, and we've got to win the next 4 games. Simple as that. And if we do that, we get the top 4. Now, if somebody is asking me the question, will we do it or can we do it? That is different. I don't think we're going to get anything from Liverpool. Personally, I don't. So that means that you're looking at Newcastle, essentially, to do us a favour against Arsenal.
Or Everton on the last day. If
If Everton are fighting for relegation, dudes, on the last day, which again, reality, but, we can look at that and say it could well possibly be. And again, winning today against Chelsea will give them a massive boost. And I just think as well that team and, Frank Lampard, he's not going to be one for taking a loss with any great grace. He's going to want to win his last game of the season if he's still there, which I think he will be. And so, yes, agreed. We need to focus on winning games. And there is a stumbling block out there for Arsenal.
The thing is, no one, TJ, Leon, Rick, all listeners, viewers, right? Let's be honest about it. No one thought that we would lose to Brighton, right? Unless, come and tell me how pessimistic you are in the comments if you think you did. There's no way at home.
I can tell you, we've got lots of Arsenal fans in here tonight. I can see them.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Fortnight dads, and then mind the gap. Be careful.
Yeah,
I still think there's a twist in it. I still think that Spurs will drop points somewhere, probably against Liverpool.
Oh yeah,
Arsenal will drop points against somewhere. I think that's just the way the football is. No one's really hammered that home. I mean, we could have been in a situation where we beat Brighton, we beat Brentford, and we beat Leicester today. That would have given us a 7-game unbeaten run, just a winning match run. Sorry, we're not Liverpool or City, and nor Arsenal, and they're the teams that are doing that. Even City draw and don't get 7, 8, 9 matches winning streaks. It's very, very tough league. So all we can do is go out there and do what we can do. And look, and I'll say it, and you're going to all hate me for saying it, but I'm going to say it, right? If Arsenal beat us, and they've on the route to getting top 4, they've beaten Chelsea, United, West Ham away, and Tottenham away. You kind of got to put your hands up and say, well, fair enough.
I know many will feel that again, by the fact Spurs did not beat either Brighton or Brentford. Do Spurs deserve to finish in the top 4? And again, we're going to be real here. The show is about being real. Leon, let's bring you in. We look at these fixtures now, of course. Liverpool away for Spurs, then Arsenal at home, Burnley at home for Spurs, and then finishing away at relegated Norwich that we know now on the final day. Arsenal's fixtures, of course, Leeds at home, Spurs away, Newcastle away, Everton at home. Leon, do you still believe Spurs can finish in the top 4 based on those fixtures remaining for both clubs?
Strangely, I do. I really do. And I do think there's going to be a little twist here. It might be the Newcastle away. Liverpool, of course, for us, incredibly hard game. But it plays into the Conte system anyway. We seem to be better when a team just flies at us and we leave the space in behind the fullbacks, and Kane actually has the space to drop into. So look at Leeds, for example, right? Leeds are no Liverpool. Look at Manchester City. They are, a Liverpool level side. Anyone who flies at us genuinely and generally leaves a load of space in behind their fullbacks. So I think because of that, Conte ball works best against them. Conte ball does not work good against this low block.
Totally agree.
It's painful to watch it. And it's painful to say we've got a world-class manager who's not unlocking that. But that might be down to, as we've identified, the personnel. If you haven't got your wide players pushing through, being creative, then actually that low block, you're stuck. And we saw that against Brighton. We saw that against Brentford. So no, I'm really looking forward to the Liverpool game. I don't normally look forward to that game at all, but for some reason, I just think they're going to go hell for leather at us because of the nervous energy they have, because they've got to get the result. And I think that leaves us in with a little glimmer of hope where it's not really about us, it's about them. And I think their crowd will get on their backs massively if we manage to get the other side of their fullbacks. And go back to the game at White Hart Lane. We were getting in behind Robertson and Trent all the time. So world-class coach sits down, identifies that. We're playing Conte ball up there, and it'll be really interesting to see how we get on.
You know what? Coming over to you, TJ. You know, Spurs, despite failing to score in 5 of their last 16 matches, Spurs are still the top scorers in the league over this period with 39 goals. And when you look at the stats, you know, since obviously Kulusevski joined in January, Son 11 goals, 4 assists, Kane 8 goals, 6 assists, Kulusevski 3 goals, 8 assists. You know, we've got one of the best front three partnerships in world football. You know, I want to ask you, TJ, when you look at the battle for that top 4 now, do you genuinely believe, when you look at the way Liverpool just seem to be grinding out those results as, you know, a potential champion, as good as City have been as well, do you think it's going to come down to Spurs needing to get a result at Anfield next week? Is that where the pivotal game is going to lie, in your opinion, or is it going to be beyond that, where this will be decided, the fate of the top 4?
Well, I think that, you know, everybody's, you know, quite rightly saying that it's probably going to be the North London derby, probably. But I also think that there's a lot of drama in that. The fact that it, you know, it rests at, you know, the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and it's Tottenham against Arsenal, and I think that there's a romance almost to that, you know, being the game that decides the 4th position. Of course, historically, Anfield has not been a happy hunting ground for us. But again, trying to apply rationale or logic to the Premier League, it's just not really worth it. So I could certainly see us getting a draw at Anfield. And also, you put it correctly when you said that they've been grinding out victories. And again, just to hark back to the point that I made as well about like belief, like confidence is one thing, like, but belief is something else. You just get used to winning. So, you know, they've not, like, I love watching Liverpool play. I love watching them play. I love football, right? So I love watching them play, but it's not been that great of late. And yet, you know, 1-0, and, you know, even the 2-0 against Villarreal, you know, didn't play very well. Sorry,
just
mate,
on that, TJ. Just on that, TJ. Liverpool, right? Like, I know where you guys are coming from, saying grinding out. They had 10 shots on target against Newcastle. I'm not being funny. That is a pounding. Right? I don't think we've had 10 shots on target all season. We average about 7 shots on target, and then we've had a couple of blanks. When you're in double figures on target, you are the dominant, blowing away teams. And
sure.
I'll give you another bit of free advice. I'll give you another free advice. If they hit 10 shots on target against us, we're losing that football match. So, you know, that for me, they are still creating chances, massive chances as well. They might be. It might look like they ground the result at 1-0, but they battered Newcastle. Let's have it right. 10 shots on target. So for me, they are a phenomenal football team.
For sure. Like I said, I love watching them play. They're a great side. And, you know, obviously Newcastle have turned a significant corner, you know, with the new owners and Eddie Howe coming in. And but we're not Newcastle, you know, and we are a team, like Leon said, if you give us some space, like when we first played Liverpool, you know, like we had a really good game. And also, not that Van Dijk looked ordinary, but we certainly kept him honest. You're not going to be able to push up and just sort of glide around, because we'll put a ball over the top and Sonny will come in and give you a heart attack, you know. And so I think we could, listen, I always think we can nick something at any game, whether that's just, you know, rose-tinted glasses or, you know, Tottenham-tinted glasses, or, you know.
I'm the same as you, TJ. I think with Conte, I must say, when Conte's your manager, you have automatic belief, I think. I'm the same as you.
Yeah. And it's not like we don't have players. Listen, you know, we won a football game when we were 2-1 down with 95 minutes on the clock. We didn't draw, we won. Yeah. You know, that's the Premier League. That's the speed that it's played at. That's the physicality. That's why it's easily the biggest league in the world. The other big leagues in Europe, we are 10 times bigger than all of them combined. That's just numbers. And people are going to go, oh, La Liga, this. That's fine, guys. You follow what you follow. And I understand, like, football is more about heart than about head. But that's just numbers. Numbers don't care. Take all of your leagues, times it by 10, and that's us. Okay, that's just how it is. So we can go to Anfield and get a result, or we go and we get dominated, and then we come and we lose to freaking Brighton, or, you know. So that's who we are right now. Just not used to what it is that we should be doing, not just week in, week out, minute after minute. It only takes a second to score a goal. So I do believe that we can get something. We just have to get on one of those runs. Like a couple of weeks ago, I'm texting my friends, can you believe we've scored since the Leeds game, right, the 4-0, we scored 25 goals and conceded 5. What the hell is that? That's like American sports to score that many points. That was nonsense. And now we've got this enormous goal difference, which could be pivotal.
Yeah.
Could be pivotal. We've got 15, 16 more goals than Arsenal. Could be pivotal. So,
Okay.
I think the Anfield game will be huge. I think like Leon said, I think the Newcastle away, that's a very tough game for Arsenal. Very tough, man. What a place to go.
I'll tell you what we'll do before we get into the game in a bit more detail. Let's just do a quick round up go around the table then, or around the screen in terms of whether we believe Spurs can finish in that top 4 based on Spurs and Arsenal's respective remaining fixtures. Lee, rather than saying can they, I mean, obviously they can based on obviously if they win every game. Will they, Lee, for you? Yes or no? As we record here.
Yeah, we can finish in the top 4 and we will finish in the top 4. Stefan, how you getting on? Hey, delusional. We'll see. You can keep this. Clip it if you want, and ping it back to us.
Oh dear. Do it when I'm on my holidays, Stefan, between the 1st to the end of June. TJ, you give us a really rousing speech. Do you then believe Spurs will be in the Champions League come the summer?
Yes, because I think that Arsenal will slip at Newcastle.
Interesting. Okay. Leon, sorry, put it on the spot, man. What do you reckon?
Yeah. No, I think we're well in it. I think we might have to send some flowers up to our friends up in Newcastle if they can do us a favour.
And to Everton as well. I agree. Do you know what? Part of me today, I'm going to be honest with you, when I went into that West Ham game, I was really deflated because I felt if we're going to rely on Arsenal to drop points, West Ham would have been somewhere where I would have hopefully counted them to do so. And the fact Arsenal came through that, I mean, I thought West Ham was so poor in that second half, but ultimately it is in Spurs' destiny, right? And as difficult as it's going to be, Spurs, if they win all their games, they will finish in the top 4. I know that means going to Anfield and winning, which I know sounds incredibly unrealistic, but it may have felt unrealistic to go to Man City and win, but we did. So, listen, we will see where that goes. But we have, of course, got a game to review in some detail. But before we do, we will go for our first break of the show for our listeners that are on audio. For our watching audience on YouTube, there's nearly 500, 600 of you plus joining us on a Sunday evening. So thank you so much for all of your incredible support as always. Now, you'll know this if you've been watching The Last Word on Spurs for over the last, couple of months or last 6 months or so. We're absolutely delighted to be sponsored by NordVPN. Now, we've been saying Nord, of course, are the hurricane of VPNs, incredible in all its facets, with a device protection of Christian Romero, bold, solid, and listen, the speed of Heung-min Son, and we will get onto his goal very, very shortly as well, because what a guy it was. They've got 5,200 servers across 59 countries in the world. They automatically select the best server based on your locations, loads, and your specific needs. They've launched a brand new feature called Threat Protection, which is an anti-malware software which allows users to be able to get a free discount and 1 month as well alongside that. So I'm going to share the code for you on the screen there. Make sure you check that out. And very good as well, when you're going via the airport, you can avoid all those dodgy connections. But of course, we've got a big game to look back on here, and a Spurs win, although I understand the mood has, I would say, lightened a little bit, unfortunately, because that Arsenal result. But listen, still a big win for Spurs at home. And Conte, after the game, was obviously delighted with the win. He said for him it was a good performance against a really good team. The game wasn't easy. We knew it was very well that, despite Leicester making 8 changes, you can see they've got the quality. And I've got to be honest with you guys, in the first 20 minutes, I was getting wondered whether it was Spurs' B team out there rather than Leicester's, because we just didn't seem to get going. Conte went on to say that we started well. They got lucky when they hit the post early on, but we got the 3 important points, especially with the games coming up, Liverpool and Arsenal. He made a reference again, Conte. He made this point in his post-match press conference that for him, Spurs should feel, in a way, still relieved to still be in a top 4 race, which I understand that in terms of him coming into the job in November. There was a lot of work to do, but again, for Tottenham, going into these last 4 games now, we had it in our hands, and let's hope it still is going to be in our hands. But Kicking it off with you, Lee, we saw Leicester make 8 changes to their team. Maddison not even on the bench. Vardy, Barnes and Tillsman were. There was that one eye against AS Roma, of course, for them in the Europa Conference League. For Spurs, just the one change. Lucas Moura replacing Jan Kulusevski. Big call, really, wasn't it? Big call to obviously drop Kulusevski for the game. Many probably feel it may have given him the motivation to come on and change it the way he did. So that Spurs team read Lloris, Romero, Dyer, Davis, Emerson, Bentancur, Højbjerg, Sessegnon, Lucas, Kane, Son, with a bench of Galini, Rodon, Sanchez, Craig, White, Winks, Bergwijn, Kulusevski, Scarlett. I mean, you can see as I read that team out there, the bench is just, the lack of changes you've got on there to make. And we'll come on to Bergwijn later because there's been some quotes from Stephen Bergwijn and Conte about his future. But Lee, firstly, was there a surprise for you to see Dejan Kulusevski drop to the bench in place of Lucas Moura?
I think it was a surprise. I mean, I was just blasting out a bit of gimme the whole way up to the stadium today. So I'm thinking, I'll get there, and he don't put him on. Like, what? I'm thinking, what's happening? But, you could arguably say it worked. Maybe he was a bit tired. Maybe Conte felt that he wanted a couple of, runs down blind alleys and, bad touches or whatever. That's why I put Lucas on. I'm not sure. But I think that you could arguably say the bench isn't strong, but the bench done its job today because when Decky did come on, the game changed without a shadow of a doubt. I thought his first run, Kulusevski's first run that he made, he ended up falling on his face right in front of us down in the south stand. Bless him, but it was a brilliant run, and it was just aggressive and front foot. He showed the rest of the team this is what I want to do. And then Romero with the tackles in behind, like just slamming in them tackles, as TJ mentioned before. It really got the crowd. It changed the game when Decky come on. There's no doubt about that. So for me, I was surprised that he didn't start. I mean, that front foot, he's been brilliant. He's proved today. He's got another 2 assists. I think that's 8 assists for him now. He was only bought on the 31st of January.
Yeah,
this guy hasn't even played 3 months worth of full football. He's got 8 assists, which is absolutely crazy. I mean, we're talking about assists behind the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robertson, who have done it year in, year out, have full seasons. This bloke's been playing 10 weeks. And he's got 8 assists. Phenomenal. He's been, and by the way, he's 9 months younger or whatever than Phil Foden. And just because he's, he comes from overseas and because he looks a lot bigger and whatever, he's 21. This guy actually has been superb, absolutely brilliant, and he really changed the game in my opinion for us today. So him coming off the bench done the business. But when you look at all them changes for Leicester. I think it does. Look, I think all of us knew today, delusions aside, that Leicester are in the middle of a 2-legged semi-final, and so are West Ham. So both respectively, Arsenal and Spurs' games were going to be essentially playing against weakened side. To be fair to West Ham, they didn't really put out a weakened side against Arsenal. Leicester did, and I thought I disagree with you a little bit, Rick. I thought for the first 8 minutes or so, I thought Tottenham were right. I thought we was going to play well. In the first 8 minutes, I thought, you know what, we're going to play well. And then the subsequent 10, 15 minutes after that, it was flat and it was very slow.
Time waste, I must add, Lee. You'll probably pick up that time waste from Leicester very early on, wasn't there? Very early.
Yeah. I mean, they hit the post as well, didn't they? I mean, they didn't have any chances, and then they hit the post, and you think, oh, here we go. But yeah, I think once it settled down a little bit, and of course we got the goal. I think that I didn't feel today like we were going to get beaten. I can't really explain it any other than that. I didn't feel like that we was going to get beaten today, especially after we got the first goal.
Yeah, Leon, coming over to you, we must make this point that, of course, with Kulusevski, just to be clear, there was no knock for him. There was no reason why, obviously, there was any fitness issue why he was on the bench. Conte simply just decided, as Ali Gold, friend of the show, decided to give Lucas that opportunity. If I'm going to be honest with you, I mean, I'm massively surprised Lucas did get the opportunity because if I'm being honest, when I've seen him come on, hasn't really given me any reason to believe that he deserves that opportunity. And I know, for what he done, of course, to get the club to a Champions League final will always be held in a high regard for that. But when it comes to the point, I think, as a club, of being absolutely brutal, if you're looking at players now that are going to take you forward and improve you, I just think Lucas now, as much as we can tell, he gives everything. And I think that's why he's being selected over Bergwijn, because I think with Bergie, I think maybe just that commitment element is missing, where Mora will still give you absolutely everything, and he loves the football club. Thoughts on that change for you, Leon, ahead of the game? Was you surprised to see Kulusevski dropped?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I was glad to see somebody dropped, because I think you need to send a message to your team. You ain't played well twice. I'm not just going to keep pushing you back out there. Somebody needs to get dropped. It ain't going to be Kane. It ain't going to be Son. So it was always going to be Kulusevski in my mind, if you're looking at who's going to be dropped going forward, even though I think he's been, obviously he's been exceptional since he's come in. But the last 2 games, no one's really kind of looked up to it. So somebody was going to get dropped. Mora had a massive opportunity, massive opportunity, and he blew it. He just wasn't at it at all today. Give the ball away every single time. I'm a big Lucas Moura fan. I like his energy. I like the fact that he actually commits players and takes them on. And, when he's at it, when he's beating players, he makes so much space for everybody else. I love his attitude. His attitude is
that's his biggest thing. I think that's his biggest thing, his attitude. Yeah.
And for a guy who's 5'1", he wins every single header. I have no idea why we're not trying him at right wing back. I keep saying this. There must be a reason in training.
I can only believe, Leon, and this is the thing, we've said this every week on the show, I can only believe, Leon, that he must have tried in training. He must have tried Bergwijn. He must have tried Decky. He must have tried more of there, because I can't believe when you see Emerson, and listen, I know Lee obviously in the season earlier said, the guy is very young, he's coming over to a new league. But when you look at the fact with Emerson, that really, in reality, down that right-hand side today, it was offering us absolutely nothing going forward, like zero. And as much as I think today defensively, I'll come on to his game defensively, I think he was okay today defensively. But you've got to, if you're going to play with wing backs, they've got to be expressive, they've got to be dynamic, they've got to offer you something and give you that width. And he doesn't do that going forward, does he?
No, not at all. Not at all. And we've seen it before. I mean, there was the Watford game, many months ago. There was just getting in that position and not being able to get that ball over. This is Watford away, sorry. But there's countless games where we can talk about the fact that we've really struggled at right wing back. And of course, Doherty came in, grabbed that opportunity, found a new lease of life. And, it's football. You get injured and then, that's the end of that. But, I kind of felt for Lucas Moura today because I just want him to do well. But it just didn't work. And bring Kulusevski on.
Game changer.
That flick when he dragged the ball back and flicked it and went away right in front of the manager. I just thought, okay.
It was almost like a Conte, kind of like a warning, like, this is what you do when you leave on the bench. It was phenomenal.
TJ, just on that, sorry, TJ, before we go to TJ, just on that as well, there was a couple of times, it was probably that time, he ran off the pitch to beat his man. It was like reminiscent of Bale in Bale came Barcelona. And people, when he first played his first 20 minutes, people on socials were saying he looks like he's running in treacle. Kulusevski's rubbish. He looks like.
I've heard we should have sold him after the last 2 games. He didn't contribute. We should have sold him. We should have sold him.
Honestly, it's crazy. And I think, that's the point, maybe throwing it over to you as well, TJ, is that the only problem that we have, when we look at all these other teams, all these other teams, they score. I think I heard yesterday, I might be wrong there, I think I heard yesterday that Man City got 17 different goal scorers right across the season, which is absolutely ridiculous. 17. There's only 11 that start and they got 17 people to score goal. Mental. And Spurs, when Kane and Son are firing, we pretty much win football matches, right? Simple as that. I don't think Kane was at his best today either, but he got a goal and he could have had another one, and he played better than he did the previous 2 games. Son's on fire, absolutely loving it. 19 Premier League goals. By the way, just want to say that's a record for Son. That's the most Premier League goals he's ever scored in his career. So there's another one. We should have dropped him though, shouldn't we? But the point I'm making is that when Son and Kane have an off day, typically the team has an off day. But what needs to happen is somebody else needs to step up.
I agree.
Kulusevski has been brilliant, but he needs to step up. So in them games against Brighton and games against Brentford, if Son and Kane aren't on it, somebody else has to be on it. And you have to be able to rely on a Steve Bergwijn to say, look, come on, boss, give me a go. You can rely on me to come on.
Absolutely. Spot on.
Kane never gets dropped, ever. Like somebody made it in the comment earlier. I'm not saying drop him from the start, for example, but he never comes off. He never comes off with 20 minutes to go. Put Bergwijn up there. Like, we could have easily against Brentford made a 3-5-2 and dropped somebody in the middle. Could have been Kane. Could have been
Is it to do with
Kulusevski.
trust, though,
could have
Lee? It
been
might be to do
Lucas.
with can he trust that? I mean, I think with Conte, a lot of it is trust. He looks at that bench, and for me, I think a lot of it is that, you know, when you look at what he's got there, he doesn't trust the other options on there. That's
Yeah, but
clearly
he
what
could
it's
have
about.
moved it around in game, like the 11 that he had on the pitch. That
Yeah,
he does trust. He could have moved it around.
I agree, and that's an element
Yeah,
of
I
Conte.
think the
I am
point
with
is,
in-game management.
yeah, that bit of in-game management. But the point is that if Kane and Son are not on it, then all of a sudden we got a problem. Whereas other teams like Arsenal, like who we're up against at the moment, who is their out-and-out striker? Like, who is their out-and-out person if they're not on it? They don't really have one. And that's a weakness, but it's also a benefit. Because actually, if Saka's not playing well, then, you know, Nketiah might step up. Or if Nketiah's not playing well, Martinelli might play. Or Odegaard. Like, they've got players that you're not reliant on, which is a bad thing, but it's also a really good thing. Because Son and Kane are in my opinion, they're world class compared to some of these other teams that they've got. Yet when they don't perform, some of the other boys need to step up, and that's the bit that we need to learn. I don't know what you guys think. I don't know what you think, TJ.
Let's bring you in, TJ. What do you think from Lee? Let's bring you in.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much concur with everything that Leon and Lee have said, you know, and I think that probably, again, from the comments that keep coming in, we're a pretty well-versed and pretty well-educated, you know, fan base. Like, not only the guests who appear on the show, but the people who watch and send in their comments. I think with Bergwijn, I just don't know a Tottenham fan that isn't like, why doesn't this guy play more? I just don't know anyone who doesn't like him or rate him. And also, it's not an accident when he comes on. The guy just bangs in goals, you know? I mean, was he hurt by scoring those two at Leicester? Was he going to Ajax and he scores those two and we don't let him go? And the thing is as well that you were saying, Ricky, about his character or personality or attitude. I can't remember the word that you used, but they're all pretty much the same thing. Again, you know, I'm going to be the first to say none of us know what happens at training. And again, none of us are going to question Conte. It's one of the nice things as well about having Conte that we don't have people go, oh, I think this and I think that. Everyone just goes, listen, man, if Antonio says that's good enough for me, thank God. You know, it just saves us a lot of bloody headaches, doesn't it?
Agree.
And so I think, but from what I can see with Bergwijn, is it's more of a personality thing than a character thing or an attitude thing. I think he just does have a sort of quiet demeanor. He seems like quite a quiet kid. And you remember, I said this last time. Remember, they're kids. They're all kids. We want the world from all of them, but they're all kids. Kulusevski, like he's 9 months older than Phil Foden, who looks like a paper boy. You know, I mean, like, you know, they're really very. I mean, you can see him on a little bike, you know, throwing up the Gazette. You know, I don't know if people even do that anymore. But you know, Bergwijn, I just think I think he suffers from a personal confidence. Like, he's not the guy that walks into the club and lights it up. You know what I mean? So
it's the opposite to Mora. Mora is so energetic and infectious. I totally agree.
And Mora
agree. Yeah, I agree.
He has a great career, but also Mora is so much older.
Yeah,
and Mora is married and has children, and you know he's massively into Jesus, and like, you know, he's got things that he's really passionate about. Steven Bergwijn is a much younger man who doesn't have a wife and children, and maybe he's massively into Jesus. No, we'd know because it'd be all over his social media. You know, like, you know, Lucas Moura can't eat a Mars bar without saying, Jesus, you know, wicked, thanks for the Mars bar. You know, so I think that with him, it's about finding confidence as a young man, not just a footballer, because there's no denying the kid's talent. And also, he's a lump. Like, God, just try marking that guy. You know, he reminds me a bit, like his movement and everything, of Jermaine, who one of my favourite Tottenham players of all time. Just, you know, quads like a horse. Like, good luck. If he's turning, he's turning. Like, Romero couldn't wrestle Jermaine to the ground. You know, and so I think there's a real player there. But again, it comes back to this idea of belief. And like, belief is not something that you can't throw a switch. Like, to have confidence in whatever and like really believe, it just comes by doing it. You know, those tracks in you, this is science, right? You know, those tracks in your brain when you behave in a certain way and you do it after time. Like you were saying, it was a while ago, but I think it was on this current bit of conversation when Ricky, you were saying it was very poor for the first 20 minutes. And then Lee, you said, actually, I thought for the first 10 minutes, it was ace. I was actually, watching it. I'm here in Budapest, as you know. I was watching it on the TV, and a number of my friends were at the game. And Lee, I knew that you were at the game. And actually, one of my friends made a comment. Oh, it was so satisfying to see King, the King, Lee McQueen, is a 4-5-1 guy as well. And we were very proud. My friend Richard Albom said that, who I know is watching. So good on you, Rich. There's your shout out. But I was also thinking, I was very proud of our fans, how vocal we were for the first 10 minutes, just hearing, come on,
literally it was trying to get it going.
Yeah, and an American friend of mine who's on this show that I'm doing came round, to watch the soccer, and he was like, oh my God, like the noise and the fans and you're singing, it's like, what a great thing. And I'm just like, yeah, man, like that's Tottenham, like that's who we are. And again, we get slated often for being quiet or for being dispassionate. And today I think it was anything but it didn't work. Right, we played like that for 10 minutes and it didn't work. We didn't score, and so that's when that lack of belief kicked in. We missed, doesn't work, and then Leicester start to do a few things and we go, ooh, and like throw 10 men behind the ball again. So we have these issues, but they're the same issues. I think that what we need to do is, how the hell is it that somebody like Diogo Jota, wow, what a season he's had at Liverpool. Man's on the bench.
Yeah. And he comes up and he comes and affects the games as well.
And then, Origi. And whenever he comes on, he's amazing. Man's on the bench.
Yeah.
Mane. Crazy. Man's on the bench. Firmino, who? Man can't even bring out oranges. You know what I mean? And so we have to be like that.
Yeah,
like Lucas Moura, I have affection for Lucas Moura as well. Leon, you were saying, Lee, I think we all have affection for Lucas. We've all got him jumping. We all had him jumping on our phone for a screensaver for, I had that for ages. My wife got upset. That's not true. She doesn't mind. But, I have great affection for him. He was terrible today, man. He was terrible. He was turgid. And also, Lucas, I don't even mind it when say, he beats 2 or 3 guys and then he loses the ball. At least he beats 2 or 3 guys. Today, he couldn't tie his own shoelaces. He was a liar.
Lucas's stats, right, lads, listeners, viewers, they're for all of the stuff that he did against Ajax, and we'll never forget him. And I do love his enthusiasm, and I love his attitude and the way he loves the club. Coming Spurs, coming Spurs, coming Spurs, and everything he does. But he's appeared 31 times in the Tottenham shirt in the Premier League this year. He scored 2 goals and 5 assists. Kulusevski's had 14 appearances. He scored 3 goals and got 8 assists. I mean, the stats don't lie. And the guy's made a massive impact. And what I would have expected from somebody like Lucas is to step up. Like for somebody to say, wow, okay, I've got some proper competition in front of me now in Decky. And he hasn't, because when he's been
especially at his age, you're a veteran, dude. You've got a young man breathing down your neck. You should really step up and go. I might not be as fast as you or as young as you, might not have the. I don't think actually Lucas Moura would ever lack for energy, but show. Well, this is what I've learned. Show a little bit of what they call footballing intelligence or whatever. Yeah. He honestly looked clueless today. He looked like a freshman, like a rookie. And a liability. I couldn't wait for him to get yanked. Couldn't wait.
Yes. Leon, I'm going to come around to you. I'm conscious that we're 53 minutes in. We've not even discussed a goal yet, and Spurs did score 3 of them. although we did go how many games without a shot on target, and now we've got goals to discuss. I know it's a really rare thing on Last Word on Spurs over the last few weeks, so please apologise. We've got goals to discuss. I know we can't believe it. Lee's in amazement as well that he's come back. There's goals to discuss, so we're all going to try and get our heads around this. Leon, despite what I said about the opening 20 minutes, Spurs did find their way in front. It was a really good header from Harry Kane. He makes up really for a couple of earlier moments where really he was a bit sloppy on the ball. He got away from his marker quite easily, headed home for Spurs. There was that reassurance. And for Kane now, this record's phenomenal, isn't it? 19 goals in 18 matches against Leicester. Leicester City absolutely hate Harry Kane, don't they?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, the thing that struck me, though, is just such an easy header. I haven't watched it back on the TV. I've only been at the game and come back up, but I don't know where the runs were blocked and how we made, but it just felt really easy. And I mean, I guess what we're like on corners.
Oh yeah,
pieces generally. Yeah. It's just awful. I mean,
we don't do them, do we? We don't do corners. No, we just don't.
The Brentford game last week, and Son had a free kick, and I was like, nothing's going to happen here. I said to my mate, who's a Brentford fan, and nothing did happen. Then the other side, Eriksen had it, and I said, well, to be fair, Eriksen, nothing's going to happen here either, because I've watched him for years hit the first man on free kicks, and then he puts a beautiful ball in, and I'm like, well, this is clearly a Spurs thing, right? If it comes down to set pieces, then we really are in trouble. But no, I mean, look, for me, I was just delighted to see Harry Kane score. I'm not sure, since he's been on that golf trip, he hasn't played so well. I don't think that's the reason, but it's going
to be linked, though, isn't it? The hard thing is it's a narrative that's going to be linked. It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, Lee, coming over to you, it's interesting with Kane because he gave away the ball, and I counted this 5 times he gave away the ball in those early stages. But of course, isn't he more than made up for it? He got his goal again. I'll be honest and say that he's not playing to the Kane level that he was a month or so ago. I'm just being honest there. Taking out the golf trip and putting that to one side. The most important thing is that Kane's getting goals. That's the most important thing. And he's scoring today. I hope it's going to set him up on another run. But you concern me that we're coming in now to this business end of the season where we need the Kanes and the Sons to be playing to their absolute maximum level. And he just seems just that bit off it at the moment, Lee, Harry Kane.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think there'll be a lot made about the golf trip and stuff. I think it has had an effect. I've actually got it on decent authority that he's got a knock and he's playing through a knock, and that's maybe why it's dropped off. The other thing that I noticed today, watching the game live, where I sit is quite high, got a decent vantage point. So he has to. A lot of people are noticing what Kane's been doing when he's dropping deep over the last kind of season and a bit. And now there's a lot of people doubling up and even tripling up on him. And that's becoming an issue. So what should happen in that scenario is that we should have some space. And where the space is being created is typically down the right-hand side where you've got Emerson, who nobody wants to pass the ball to. So what's happening is Kane's coming a little bit deeper, having 2 or 3 people around him, losing the ball more often than he used to before because he's been having more attention paid to him, should we say. And we're not filtering the ball out into the spaces either quick enough or because we don't trust, certain personnel that are in and around. So I think I always look at pragmatically to say it's not just one key thing. There's a few things. Like it's probably got a little knock. I can't remember if it was against Villa when they properly went out at us, didn't they, in the first half? I think he took a knock on his ankle or somewhere on his leg. And I'm not saying he's not fit. He's not fit. I'm saying he's probably not at his. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt that previous to them games, he was on absolute fire. So he's probably due a little bit of downtime, if you can say that. But you're right, Rick. Yeah, and somebody made the comment earlier because I said that he was world class and exceptional player, but world class players make the key difference most of the time. And you kind of got to agree with that. These are the times against Brighton, against Brentford, where you have to rely on a world class player to get them out of trouble. And this is what I don't understand about the media narrative, like with Ronaldo. Like Manchester United bought Ronaldo to do exactly what I've just described. He does it, and then it's a bad thing. Oh, they're relying on Ronaldo again. Well, no, that's why they bought a world-class player, because he can do that. Do you get what I mean? So I think Son and Kane are brilliant, and I think that I still think they're world-class. But from a Kane perspective, I think I don't know if anyone notices. It's more of a question than a statement, if I can, Rick, to the other guys and viewers and listeners as well. Did Kane play more further forward against Brentford and against Brighton? Or, because the pockets where he drops into them kind of deeper pockets, they weren't there for him to play in. So he stood up top. I mean, I think he had about 3 touches inside the box or something ridiculous. So I do think it's about him having to change his game almost on a weekly basis now, because he's going
judging on the opposition, depending on the opposition
around me. And so it's but intelligently he will be fine because he's brilliant. It's the intelligence around him that needs to work that out as well. And I think that's maybe the problem.
Yeah, it's interesting. Chris Whaley on the screen here says, what's your thoughts on Royal getting in Kane's way in the box? Happens a lot. And that comment's come up quite a few times tonight. The fact that players are getting in Kane's way, Emerson being one of them. TJ, on Harry Kane, Listen, it hasn't been a normal season for Kane, although despite the fact that he started slowly, he's still up there in the goal scoring charts. What's your opinion on Kane at the moment? Do you think he will galvanise himself in these last remaining games to give Spurs that opportunity of breaking in and finishing a top 4 finish? Because it feels like Spurs, when Kane plays well, Spurs play well. But ironically today, Kane didn't play that well and Spurs still got the result.
Yeah, I mean, listen, of course he's world class. Like anyone who says he isn't, there's an agenda there. It was interesting actually when Lee said that he has it on good authority that he's carrying a knock, because mate, that's exactly what I thought. Like last 2 or 3 games, he just, and I was thinking, is he tired? Was it the golf thing? I mean, obviously I live in America, so, when you do, but, I'm so much older than he is. You fly, it does affect you, but was it that? And then I was thinking, I wonder if he's taken a little knock. So I think that that's what it is. Will he be able to play through that and be like it? I mean, dude, when he played against City, you'll never see a more complete performance from a footballer than the performance that Harry Kane put against City. So will it be that level? Probably not, but to be honest, it doesn't need to be that level. Like that was a 12 out of 10. Like that was when Cristiano turned up against us, when Brady was in the crowd and like Harry Kane, oh, Brady's here. And Ronaldo was like, oh, Brady's here. And Ronaldo won the Brady pat on the back contest that day. It is extraordinary they lost to that United team twice. Good Lord. So I think that as far as players getting in his way and like Emerson getting in his way, yeah, absolutely. Like that's happening far too often. It's just that Emerson doesn't really know how to not to play football, but kind of play football. I just don't understand how he's made it. I really don't. And the thing is that, like you were saying, where the spaces are when our class players are being doubled or trebled are on the sides, and the other teams are like, mate, have it. Like Emerson, when you see Emerson running with the ball, as soon as he gets it, he's always looking up like that because like, who can I give this ball to? Do you know what I mean? And he has this sort of stuttering gait as well to the way that he dribbles. When he went past 2 players today and got tripped over and we got a foul for it, that was nothing to do with his ability. It was so slow. It was literally like a player stepped in because he'd lost the ball and just mistimed it. Like he's so far off the pace. So of course he gets in Kane's way because he just doesn't know where to be, but he's trying to cover ground. So fair play to the lad, to Emerson. He's trying to cover ground. He's just not good enough. So will Kane step up and lead this team? Yes, because Kane at 7 out of 10 is a 10 in most teams. So I think that he will do what we need him to do. Him and the others. I mean, listen, man, Lloris, I think has been fantastic as well. Like, and again, that onto the post, that was a save onto the post. He's been mustard. And so I think that those big players who've been there and done that, that's something I think actually that will play to our advantage over the next couple of seasons, is that our veterans, our older players are actually really class. And I think that's the disparity with this young Arsenal team. I think the young players are excellent, but their older players are not good enough. And like that's with us, like our younger players aren't that great, but it's our older players that are really kind of carrying the team.
Really good points there. I must say, for any comments on the screen here, we have discussed already the top 4 running, what we think of that. So you're more than welcome to know. If anyone joining us live right now, there's loads of listeners coming in. I think 500, 600 of you watching us live. Thank you so much across all our different platforms. So feel free to wind back, have a think of that, and then come back and tell us at the end if we're all deluded based on our thoughts earlier. But that was half hour ago. It might all change depending if we get any breaking news, of course. And what we will do, we'll go for another very quick break. Guys, thank you so much as always for all your support for Last Word on Spurs. Incredible. Listen, I have so many of you watching us this evening. We understand we're going into the final battle for the business end of the season. And I know many are feeling differently in terms of the fixtures coming up. But I think one man that we feel is looking like he's getting back on form, coming over to you, Leon, is Heung-min Son. We'll come and discuss his wonder goal shortly. But he fired Spurs into a 2-0 lead. Kulusevski really coming on, changing the game, setting it up. And it all came from an absolutely crunching tackle from Christian Romero. And you know what, I will say that the fans when Romero goes in for tackles, you can hear the stadium. Everyone's on their feet. They're cheering. They're rocking. I mean, there's not too many players that can, as a defender, bring you to your feet. But Christian Romero is one of them. He clatters into players. I can't do the TJ impression of that. I can't do it as good as him, so I won't even try and do it as good as him. But it's what that noise is what Christian does. But it is full commitment from, obviously, Romero, and a lovely finish from Son to double our lead and set us down, Leon.
Absolutely, and as TJ put it, bang and bang. There were two. He went through the first one, and then he went through the second one. And just before that, because it was in front of me, there was a bit of off the ball with I forget the name of the player, number 29. And Romero had a little look at him, and he kind of like shrugged his shoulders on top of his chest and just
sizes them up.
As in, we see all the time in Sunday morning football. It's a bit like, yeah, all right, noted. All right, let's see what happens next time. And the next time it was bang, bang, and it just lifted the place and set up an attack, and bang, there you go, Sonny with a goal. But that I mean, looking at it, I do wonder, how did we get this player? How did we get Romero?
Yeah. And also, no offense, he was signed under Nuno. Not under Conte, signed under Nuno. That's also what's quite unbelievable.
Well, then it must be Paratici. It must be Paratici. It must be.
Yeah, it's unbelievable that we have this player. And yeah, I mean, look, that Son finish. I mean, he just doesn't miss, does he? You know, or if he misses, it's a massive kind of head in hands moment, because there's been some key misses across the season. Every player's going to have that. Kane's had a couple, but you know, in Son, he's just top class. And I know we'll speak about the one that he hit in the top corner a little bit later, but no, I mean, we're just blessed to have these players, but now they've got to deliver. You know, they have to deliver. This is, you know, we can't look back and go, oh, they did really well up until now. They've got to get us over the line, because that is
totally. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? I mean, it's all very well winning today, but I do feel that come the end of the season, we'll be judged ultimately if we have made that top four. Lee, coming over to you. It was a lovely turn in the box from Son to finish, Kulusevski teeing him up, but it all came from Lee. That absolutely, as I mentioned, crunching tackle from Christian Romero. It was beautiful to see it. He loves doing it. We love seeing it as fans. Just a really great team goal, wasn't it, Lee?
It was beautiful. I mean, I think I can't name check you, buddy. Sorry, but I think you said earlier in the comments about you know, it's a throwback back in the days of like smashing tackles. I mean, everybody in the stadium loved it. Like literally everybody. It was almost like cheering a goal. It was just brilliant. And the thing that made it even more brilliant is if he mistimes that is literally a straight red. He ain't playing another game this season or whatever. You know, he's definitely missing the North London derby. And he just doesn't think like that. And he just thinks he's so aggressive. Like, so, what did you boys call it? Bang! Like he's so in it. And it's just brilliant to see, because I think it was Daka that maybe, Leon, you were talking about, wasn't it? The striker wears number 29. And like you say, he was a little bit like, oh, hello. Romero just, there was a time, I think there was another situation where he won the ball and then he just kept running and he found himself in the striker position. And you're thinking, this is how Conte wants to play. This is exactly how Conte wants to play football.
He's the embodiment of Conte, isn't he, Lee? Is he not the embodiment?
And it's, yeah, exactly that, mate. And it's flooding the box with, obviously we're wearing our home kit today, so white shirts, flooding the box with white shirts in and around, like Ben Davis flooding the box or Romero flood. And we've been doing that brilliantly, and we hadn't been doing that at all over a last couple of games or whatever. So to see Romero just crunching in and then going on again and setting up that goal was fantastic. You know, that's what I loved. I mentioned Decky earlier when he first come on. He made that belting run straight through and like just saying, "Come!" It was almost like, "Come on, what are we doing here?" And I love that. That raw aggression it showed me that they want it, and that, you know, when players finish, if we finish fifth this season and players come out and say, "Oh, I want Champions League, I want to leave," well, this is the reason. You know, it's up to you now to do things like what Romero's doing, like what Decky's doing. If you want a piece of the action, you can have it. Go for it. But don't start whinging at the end of the season. Oh, I want top 4, because you can have it right now. But you've got to give it. If you want it, you've got to give it. And Romero, for me, has shown exactly what he's all about. And I agree with you, Leon. Paratici must have been cooking back in the summer to sign him. So absolutely phenomenal. And look, I've criticised him in certain weeks as well. You know, he was at fault to giving away that Man City penalty when we were 2-1 up, and you know,
I think Burnley as well. Was it say Burnley away?
And Burnley, when the ball went over his head, and he should have been heading that out. And like you said earlier, Leon, I think, you know, he has got a Rick in him. You know, not you, Rick. You know what I mean? But he's. I wish he had a Rick in him if I was playing that. I tell you. Well, you can get him if you want. It's not a problem. But yeah, I mean, I think he has got something in there, but he is learning all the time. And again, like you say, he's only 23, and you know, everybody talks about, you know, these young teams, like, oh, it's not such a young team. Like, we're not an old team either. You know, we've got some really young players in our team. Now, Bentancur, I think he gave the ball away quite a lot today, but on a yellow card as well, made some phenomenal tackles and really put it in and about. There was definitely something went on at half time where Conte must have just, I don't know, given him the Alex Ferguson hairdryer or something, because definitely changed in the second half. And Romero epitomises everything that was good about us today. Romero epitomised that, I think.
I was going to say the Romero chat, but I feel like we're already in Romero flow. So it only feels right to bring TJ in as well, because I know what's coming. We know what's coming. But before we do, I mean, a quick word. There we go. It's superb. It's just the technique. It's just the sound effects. I tell you what, it makes a difference when you're on YouTube, I must say. Actually, Rogers said on the tackle, he said there was no problem with the tackle. I had a problem with us not winning the tackle. Romero was strong, aggressive, and that's what you want from your centre half. I mean, TJ, he almost inspired that whole move to come together for Son to score, didn't he?
Yes, he did. And the thing is as well with Romero, and also I'm so pleased, Lee, that you mentioned, you know, Bentancur, you know, Ricky's twin, as first discovered by TJ Ramini. But it was. I can vouch for that. It was. I texted him. I said, "Mate, separated at birth much." But anyway, I think yes, he inspires the team, and he is a world-class player, and he's made those better around him. And like Leon said, you know, he should be credited with the assist. But it's also it's just good to be reminded, you know, as football fans, remember there's lots of good players out there, you know, and so if you look at the difference that he has made coming into the team over somebody like Sanchez, you know, like it's. I don't want to disrespect Sanchez, because I actually like Sanchez. I think there is a player in there. It's a confidence thing with him, but it is chalk and cheese, isn't it? And dude,
Bentancur,
I mean, that was a massive issue for us. How often would we come on this podcast, and I hear it all the time as well? Yeah. Harry Winks. Yeah. And like, you know, who are we going to put? Lo Celso and Ndombele. Like, you almost forget these guys are all Tottenham players, and the difference between one player coming in and how that can transform a team, which is, again, I have great faith that, like we said right back at the beginning of the pod, and again, if you've just come onto this now, gang, you know, what a wonderful episode it's been. Go back and watch it from the beginning. But we were saying at the beginning, you know, if we can get these wing backs, Lee was saying, if we can get these wing backs, we're challenging for titles. And that's not pie in the sky, you know, Tottenham coloured spectacles. It really is, because one world-class player can make such a massive difference. When you take a 6 out of 10 and turn that into an 8 or a 9, and like sometimes a 10, Jesus, that's the difference. And so, of course, we're all enormous members of the Romero fan club. And also, like Lee said, the fact that he doesn't even think about, God, if I get this wrong, I'm gone. He doesn't think about that, because I keep saying this on this podcast, that's belief. He knows he's not going to get it wrong. And that's the difference, man. There's not an iota, not a shred, not a whisper or a hint of doubt. I know I can do this. I know I'll time it right. I know I'll win the ball.
It's the celebrations as well, isn't it, TJ? Of like from defending,
tackling.
Like
he loves tackling.
He loves it.
It's very Argentinian. You know, it's a very Argentinian.
Tottenham on the screen now. Got it bang on.
It's about, you know, imposing your will on somebody else. It's a very, you know, dare I say it? It's a really bad word these days, but it's a very macho thing to do. And, you know, maybe in culture and in society, perhaps not great to be macho, but this is football. You know, this is football. For 90 minutes, You take all of those gloves and everything. You take it all off. 90 minutes, win the game, and then after the game, good game, mate. Shake hands, cuddle, fucking have a kiss, whatever. Sorry to swear.
Nice.
But during the game, take the gloves off, and that's why we adore him. And he has made an enormous difference. Dyer for me is the most improved player over the season.
Great.
And Davis would have a good shout.
And he's a catalyst because of that. I mean, Romero is the catalyst
100%.
that has
What's
brought
he
them
learning
up.
that? I understand you're learning. And again, like, I love listening to other players, who was it? Who was talking about Conte and how he's transformed him into this different player. And of course, Conte and his coaches have an enormous influence on that. But they're not standing next to you.
No.
You're not watching. When you play, right? You see somebody do something like, I'm going to try that. You know what I mean? And so when they're standing next to you, they're imbuing that confidence into you. Physically, you can see it. When you're going up, when you're defending a corner or something, he might be standing in front of you. Maybe he's got his arm on your shoulder. Physically, there's a lot that can be really galvanized, and really that unity can be formed from a touch. Pochettino was a big fan of that. Like, everyone must come in and shake each other's hands. To really form that unity. These are soldiers. You've got to go to war for 90 minutes. And so he's not just the tackles and the crunching. And it's honestly his will and his energy and his spirit has really imbued a sense of true belief in those back three. But it's not going to work magic on the guys on the end who are just not good enough to be. They're not Premier League footballers for me.
Yeah, no,
Certainly
I mean, again,
top 4 Premier League footballers. They're just not.
No,
Nice boys, I'm sure, but this isn't a popularity contest.
No, you're spot on. You're absolutely right. Leon, coming over to you. We have to bring, obviously, Kulusevski into, obviously, the conversation, because it was great work from that. All started off by that massive Romero tackle around, of course, on the halfway line. And as we said, Lucas, really, it was inevitable that he had to come off because he didn't offer Spurs the real energy, the desire, the ruthlessness what we needed, really, down that wing. But Kulusevski come on, and he ended up grabbing both assists for Son. Just driving Spurs forward. And of course, I mean, Lee referenced the Bale skill on the side of the pitch coming on almost in front of Conte, just to almost say to him, don't you dare drop me again. But I mean, we look at his stats now. What does he go? No Tottenham players provided more Premier League assists this season than Kulusevski, 8. He's only played 14 games, Leon. He's only been here since January 31st. I mean, isn't that quite remarkable, what we're talking about here from this guy?
It is truly remarkable, and it's interesting. At the Brentford game, I was sat next to somebody from AS Roma, and they were shocked at how well Kulusevski had done, because he was doing no great shakes at Juve, in his opinion, of the guy I was speaking to. So clearly, being given the opportunity, given the confidence, and being told to just go out there and being trusted, has got the best out of him. And it's so early in his career, like, there's so much to come. I remember watching the first game he played, and I thought, oh God, he ain't got much pace. He doesn't look that skillful. I just thought, oh, who is this guy? And actually, he's answered that question tenfold. It's like, this is exactly who I am. This is what I can do. And those finishes, that finish against Leeds, etc. There's so many brilliant things he's brought to the team. And he's kind of, it's almost like he's quietly going about his business as well. There seems to be kind of a real maturity for somebody who is so young, and I think that's something we should give him a lot of credit for. And it'll be interesting to see how he continues to mature in the team, because he's playing with 2 incredible players in Son and Kane. He hasn't got the width either side of him. So that'll be interesting to see when we become a better team, because clearly that's going to happen with the additions we'll bring in. Quick word on Romero as well, because I know we've talked about the steel he brings, but my word, the composure is unbelievable.
Outrageous.
And so calm.
Just to the extent that I kind of almost wonder, God, could he play in centre midfield? Because he's got that composure on that ball. He gives it. There's just something that's just completely different class and completely different. Normally get one or the other. You don't normally get both.
Agreed.
So sorry, I don't want to.
No, he's a special. No, you're right, but he's a special guy. I mean, how can you not bring that up? But I mean, as you touched upon, Leon, there for you, Kulusevski, listen, as the guy comment there said, he's got more assists than any Arsenal player this season. He's only joined us since January, Leon. It's remarkable, isn't it? What this guy could be capable of in time as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, the team's been playing well.
Yeah.
So that helps massively. I know we were kind of talking about Mora's stats, comparing them, but Mora was in an incredibly different looking team with different motivation and playing without confidence. But it's the change in personnel, changing manager, changing how they're set up that has got the best out of the team ultimately. And Kulusevski's grabbed that and not allowed Mora a chance to get back in apart from today. And then when he's got his chance to pop back on off the bench, he said, "You're not having this spot back, no chance."
Yeah, I mean,
and that's what you want from your players, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's interestingly coming over to you. I just wonder whether being rested maybe clearly did do the trick, because as I mentioned a minute ago, he did really bring that drive, dynamism down that right-hand side. And he ended up grabbing 2 assists. What more can you ask from the guy? If you're going to drop him and you want him to show what he's made of, can he handle that mentally? He's answered that there, Lee, in 45 minutes.
Well, this was the point that we was making earlier about him versus Lucas almost, and the statistics, 5 goals and 2 goals and 5 assists versus 3 goals and 8 assists. It's just madness, really. Super Tottenham again makes a really good point there. Kulu is really skillful. Thank you, Rick. His trickery, it's confusing the fullbacks, because don't forget he's a left-footer player on the right, so he's inverted as well. And it does, I don't know, there's something about him that you look at him and you go, oh, he ain't that quick, but then he is quite quick. And then you look at him and go, well, he's quite cumbersome, so he can't really turn, but then he can turn. It's just, I absolutely love the bloke. Really, really fell in love with the bloke. And I love the song. Big shout out to Spurs Song Sheets as well. If you're not following them, please follow them. They are doing some really good work around trying to get singing and making it fun. Not horrible songs, not rubbish songs, like really good fun songs. We need more songs. We need more songs. We need more songs. Exactly. And some really good stuff. So I want to try and get behind that as well. So it's at Spurs Song Sheet. So get involved and start following them up, because I think they're really good, and they've got some brilliant tunes as well coming through. So, and Kulusevski is been fantastic. I mean, I think that I always go back to when Antonio Conte won the title with Chelsea that season when they done us. I think he had Pedro playing that same side. I think that season Pedro got 9 goals and 9 assists in the full season with a pre-season, blah, 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 with Conte. And like you just said, Kulusevski's come in. He's only got 1 assist behind where that Pedro was. Look, he's got a few goals to catch up, let's be honest about it. But he's doing what he's been brought in to do. And that's what, sharing the goals, sharing the assists around, so you're not so reliant on Kane and Son, like we talked about earlier, is really, really important. And he's picking up some of the workload. And I think people don't know what to do with it. Like, this is why I think it works quite nicely with Kulusevski when he's dropping inside or he's going outside. If Kane's got the ball and he's dropping deep and he's got 2 or 3 men around him, Kulusevski's clever enough to know what to do with that space. Do you see what I mean? Whereas maybe some of the other, no offense, but some of the other players that we've had playing out there don't know what to do, or they get in each other's way, as we discussed earlier. So I love the bloke. I think he's done fantastic. He's just got to score and assists for the next 4 games, please, every single game, and I think it gives a big chance.
How much have I missed this question being asked to me? Ricky, is Son world class? Oh God, I can't wait to have all of that at the end of this season. Listen, that goal today from Sonny was world class. Hence the voice like this as well, I must add. So thank you so much. Let's discuss Sonny's wonderful goal. For Son now, that takes him to, I think, 31 appearances, 19 goals, 8 assists. Directly been involved in 9 out of the 15 goals that Spurs have scored in their last 6 games. I mean, that is a world-class record. Oh, there, I've said it. There you go. So everyone getting on my back now. Get off my back. It's a world-class record. And all I've ever said about Son, and I'll say it again, consistency. Consistency. That's all I ask for. All I ask for. We now need players in these next 4 games, as Lee says, like Christian Romero, that is going to make the difference. That is going to step out, from the shadows and get this club back into the Champions League where we all want the club to be and take us to that level where Conte is going to get backed. That's what we all want. And I want Son to do that. And TJ, we'll roll it off with you because I'm sure you're going to tell me all your love for Son. And again, an incredible goal, incredible stats. Again, 8 goals, 2 assists in his last 6 Premier League games. Is Son coming to the fore exactly when we need him?
Yes, he is. And, as I've said before, Sonny's my favourite Tottenham player, and he was pretty much straight away. I've always admired a player that plays with a smile on his face. I'm a huge lover of the sport. And so any player that shows gratitude, for playing for a living, gets my admiration and my respect. I mean, the fact that it's even a debate, is he world class, is just preposterous. Again, it comes down to optics. It's similar actually with Decky, because he has this ungainly manner about him, a bit like Crouchy. It was like, really? He's a footballer? He looks like a high jumper, and so it's an optics thing. And also a player, again, who sparked years of debate on this podcast, Eric Lamela. I know, mate. He used to play in that position, right? But Eric Lamela was very handsome and, this dashing, and he was, very physical and combative. Those are optics which people are just going to gravitate towards. Decky isn't. He's not. I mean, Eric Lamela could be a movie star. Decky is a supporting actor, and so, but he's so much more effective. I was never a fan of Eric Lamela, and also master of the dark arts and all that kind of thing. You're not a master if you get caught, my friend. You are not a master if you get caught. And Decky is aggressive. You know what I mean? Like he's got little moves and everything. That's being a master because he gets away with it. I think he's maybe had 2 yellow cards since he's been at the club, and he gets stuck in. So that's massively important. But anyway, back to Sonny. He's hitting that vein of form. And Rick, of course, mate, of course we want him to be consistent. Because when he goes missing, it's just a massive hole for us. It's like when Eriksen used to go missing. Again, if you play at that level, if you go from like a 9.5, and you drop to a 7, dude, no, we can't afford that. We don't have Rodri that we can bring off the bench, a Gundogan that we can bring off the bench.
Spot on.
We don't have those players. We're just not that club yet. And so we need you guys to fire. And again, with Sonny, I don't ever think it's a decision. Again, we've talked about I've certainly talked about it, and I know you guys talk about it a lot, and it's something that the viewers and the listeners are constantly talking about as well, not only here, but on Twitter and what have you. That really all we demand of our players is effort, 100% effort, because effort is a decision. It's got nothing to do with your ability, your skill. You make a decision. I will give all for my shirt. Like Højbjerg. Again, here's a player who suddenly, all of a sudden, people go, oh, he's rubbish, right? And I know Lee, I was in a car park in Hollywood, and Lee was saying he's a dustman. It was ages ago. Do you remember that, Lee?
Crackers. I've got to shout Crackers out. Crackers called him the dustman.
Oh, is that right?
It was
I heard you quoting Crackers, and I was pulling into a car park. I nearly hit the pillar because it really made me laugh. But and so he always gives the effort, but he's nowhere near as good as Sonny. So with Sonny, I don't know what it is with him. I don't know why he goes off the boil. Again, I would suggest that when you're that good, if you have a slightly off day, we're just really going to notice. But he seems to, he almost seems to be a bit too emotional. Like if it's not happening, he almost kind of gets a bit stroppy. I don't have any children, but you go and see your friends and, you go, oh, he's a bit tired. Oh, he missed his nap. But he said, he almost kind of seems a bit like that. So, he's got to get a good nap before the game and just eradicate that. Will be absolutely fine.
Leon, coming over to you. I mean, the goal itself from Son was just, beautiful. I was right behind it, and it curled its way into the top corner. It was just remarkable. And it's one of those where, the minute it leaves its foot, it's only going in one direction. And again, Son, what you see about Son, when he's in full confidence and full flow, I mean it when I say this, and again, there is not a better striker of a ball than Sonny, bar maybe Kane, because when he has that confidence, that unbridled belief that he's going to score, he's phenomenal. And the goal itself is almost it kind of represents the player that he is and the belief that he has in his game when he has got that confidence.
Yeah, no, beautiful goal. And the thing I love about Sonny is he can do it off both feet. You know, I believe every professional footballer should be able to play with both feet, but many can't. Let's face it. We see
Eric
people
Lamela.
struggle,
Totally agree. Completely agree.
struggle on a left or right foot, which I think there is no excuse for. But the thing I love about Sonny, right, and this is probably why he doesn't get the credit I think he deserves and doesn't have the status in world football that I think he deserves. When have you ever heard Son linked to another club?
No.
He doesn't have hype men in the media
No.
putting him in with linked to Barcelona, linked to this club. You don't hear he's demanding this much money for a new contract or he's
No.
out the door. You don't have any of that. You just have football.
So
Just
true.
football. Every
Leon,
other player.
is his father is manager? Is that what it is? Is it
It's
a
coach,
family?
isn't it? It's a family
Yeah.
thing, isn't it?
Is
Yeah.
that what it is?
Well, I mean, he's with I think it's CAA, huge
Never heard of
agency, huge agency,
Yeah.
and look, you know, it'd be easy to link Son with every club in the world, right? But it just doesn't happen. There's just silence around him, and all you see is football, and all you see is him doing his bits and pieces with his hands in front of the camera, and all you hear is him talking about how much he loves football. And I think there's real beauty in that, and that's what
It's
stands
beautiful.
out in this world of, if you don't give me this, I'm not signing this contract.
Totally
I'm not
agree,
doing
mate.
that. We don't need that noise, and that noise is all about money. It's all about money. It's all to drive clubs into certain positions. So the club must love Son because he doesn't do any of that with them. None of that at all. He just turns up, plays football. So I think if we saw him linked to, I don't know, I was going to say Barcelona, but Barcelona is not the club to be linked to
I
anymore.
mean, Bayern Munich or something like Bayern Munich or Real Madrid. I wouldn't be surprised. It's just again with Son, yeah,
his status would change because everyone would be, oh yeah, he could easily play for that club or that. It'd be a debate. We'd be talking about it here. We're talking about it across the media, and then you would see him in a different way. And I think because that doesn't exist, he doesn't get the credit he deserves, bizarrely. But it makes him a real kind of joy for your own club.
Yeah.
So I think hats off to Sonny if he is doing that to make sure he is living his kind of values, because it's something as a supporter base we shouldn't take for granted because it's rare. It's really rare.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, obviously, because I know Pochettino said at the time that maybe many clubs in the league will bring you in here. That maybe they wouldn't have given the gamble for Son because he obviously had the 2-year mandatory military service. It's a really good point. I know Pochettino made that point early on. But, you know, Lee, I know you were very clear and vocal to say this at the start. You know, the 19 Premier League goals this season, the most he's ever scored in one campaign. He's 3 behind Mo Salah in the race for the Golden Boot. And correct me if I'm wrong, none of these have been penalties, have they? None of these have been penalties. They've all been from open play, which again kind of illustrates just the phenomenal goal ratio Son's had this season, plus the fact that he's got an assist, of course, for the corner for Kane today, which I know we still can't believe, and probably why we didn't give it enough enough airtime in what we did at the time.
Well, he's got 7 assists as well. I think his Premier League record was 10 assists and 17 goals last season. And this season now he's got 19 with 7 assists. I'm absolutely flabbergasted that this bloke doesn't take the ball when there's a free kick in and around the box. I honestly, like, he put that ball in for Ben Davis's equaliser against Newcastle. It wasn't a corner, but it rebounded back out. And he was, if you remember, he was running from just taking the corner, and he put that kind of low, hard whipped, flat ball in for Ben Davis to glance on and score. Weren't a bad game for Ben, was it, that day, Ricky? Was it more than a 6 out of 10, son? But I mean, you know, I think from a
11 here in the comments.
Look, the amount of times that we moan about not having any free kick takers, and like, Leon, it was poetic what you said. Absolutely beautiful to see and to know that he is just about football. It's not anything about left foot, right foot, genuinely. You know, he could step up on the left and ping one in, step up on the right, ping one in. I'm flabbergasted he don't take the ball because, with greatest respect, I love Kane more than most, but he can't take a free kick. And, you know, we haven't got somebody. Sonny could take free kicks and start getting more goals. Like you said, Rick, I think it was made, the point made in the group earlier, in the group chat, from one of the viewers. that, Salah's got 17 goals, really, because the others have been penalties, and Sonny's got 19. It's a phenomenal player, phenomenal. People say about, we need to step up or what. He has. He's improved every season. I mean, we've got a guy now that isn't even playing as an out-and-out striker. He's playing as a left-sided forward. He's going to end up scoring more than 20 Premier League goals. And in my mind, in the era that I grew up in, if you get 20 Premier League goals, you're a ledge. And he's about to do it. So happy days, mate.
I can tell you, I'm going to have to really be careful what I say to Lee McQueen about Heung-min Son going forward. I'll tell you.
It's brilliant. We talked earlier about Decky, and we talked earlier about, Lamela. And Jason, one of our own, he always made this point about Lamela, is he never really done it in a big game, like with a big goal. And he dropped up with a Rabona in the North London derby. Unbelievable. And then 20 minutes later, he gets sent off. That was Lamela all over. Decky already has scored big goals, gets the first one against Man City, at the Etihad. He's already made massive impact in the assists in big games that we've got coming. You can trust him against Liverpool at Anfield. You know that Decky's going to have a decent game. He's not going to go missing. Son, when has he ever gone missing in a big game? Scored 2 at the Etihad in the Champions League quarterfinal. Scored the winner against him in the first leg of the quarterfinal of the Champions League. Scored the first goal ever at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. When he needed to step up on Kane's injuries all through that Champions League, he stepped up and scored goals. This bloke, and TJ's had it right early, smile on his face. This guy's Mr. Tottenham. Arguably, Kane obviously is one of our own, but arguably Son's one of our own. He didn't have any fuss about signing a new 4-year contract. It almost went under the radar that he signed it. And this guy is absolute phenomenal. And I just love the fact that he plays for Tottenham Hotspur. I don't think even some of the gooners that have been here tonight, which is very, very strange, like watching the Tottenham stream, but whatever. Even some of the gooners in here tonight, staunch Arsenal fans, you can't hate Son. You just can't hate him. You can't. It's impossible.
No. He's such a likeable bloke. I mean, Conte after the game said, I gave him a big hug because after an amazing goal, my question is, what is your favourite foot? His right or his left? He's got a fantastic goal. And before I had 5 or 6 minutes, I have to make a change. And he scores an amazing goal. And listen, Son, as a player, remarkable player. And let's hope he's got more goals to come, Lee.
Just quickly on Son, as he... I mean, it's so easy to say after the event, but I promise this is true. I said to my mate Coles, who was sitting next to you, when the ball came to him, when Kulusevski gave him that ball, I immediately said shoot, because I knew that he has it in his locker to just lean back a bit and ping it, and it's exactly what he did. And it was always going in the back of the net. It was just perfect. It reminded me of the goal he scored against Arsenal. In the when there was 3,000 fans back. It was on the other side, and that party went for a party. I think, didn't he? He didn't track back or whatever. And then Son just pinged this ball. He's got it in his locker. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Sorry to battle on, but I love it.
No, it was remarkable. Listen, I know people would love the Heung-min Son loving, so let it continue. Unbelievable. We've gone for nearly 2 hours here. We've just got to very quickly fit in some of the other players' performances. It's just all been about the Son, Kane, Kulusevski show, hasn't it? Of course, and lots of love for Romero, and why not? Because he was superb. Leicester did hit one back late on in, obviously, stoppage time. Ian actually firing a shot low off the post. And what I will say, again, not to be too critical, I think Harry Winks, he came on, of course. I think he could have done a little bit better in terms of closing him down. It was almost like Harry, who I think we all are probably of the same mindset now, he's probably on his way out this summer. Just looks like he's kind of playing time out of his Spurs career. Allowed Iheanacho to have all the freedom really to score. I think, I know there's lots of comments on Winks, probably better left unsaid, because I think many fully feel the same, that for Winks, for Spurs, probably it's right to part ways. But very quickly, of course, we mentioned Eric Dyer. He worked ever so hard, very much today, alongside Romero, was staunch. Ben Davies, although there was an early moment in the game, 15 minutes, and he lost the ball, I think he recovered quite well mentally. And, Spurs did see out, obviously, the game, apart from, obviously, the conclusion of the late goal. Emerson Royale, we discussed going forward, Emerson, not a huge amount in terms of being able to offer going forward. It'll be interesting to see in terms of what Conte does do now, if he will look to change it. I don't think he will. I think we've seen such a stubbornness from Conte where you look at the fullbacks. I think for him now, he's quite set on playing this way. Bentancur, TJ, coming over to you. What did you make of his performance today?
He's a player that's come in and almost waved a wand over the center of that team. Again, we were talking, you and I talked about him a fair bit, not just his remarkable similarity to you physically, but and again, it's a reminder that we shouldn't and mustn't not suffer fools necessarily, but accept average or subpar players. And again, Harry Winks, nothing against him personally. You're just not good enough, mate. You're just not good enough. There are many players in the league that are much better than you, mate. It's just as simple as that. He's Tottenham and we love him. He's from Hemel Hempstead. He's a Tottenham guy. All his family are Tottenham. That's wonderful. Yeah. He's handsome as hell. I've said before, he could be in a boy band. All those reality shows that are on in England, he'll walk all of those. The jungle and the dancing and the singing and the masks and the cooking and the baking, he'll walk them all. Oh, isn't he handsome? He couldn't make a pancake. He's so handsome. You win, But this is about winning football matches. So he has to go. There are so many other players that we need to bring in. Bentancur has come in and we're like, oh my God, is that Moussa Dembele? He's that good. And he was straight away. Again, when Leon was saying about how Romero will take a risk, constantly take risks in the final third, not just with his tackles, but with his touches. What was it he did today? He received the ball. It was a slightly dodgy pass. I think it was from Eric Dyer. And somebody closed him, and he flicked it over the top of him. Holy shit, dude, what are you doing? Yeah, but he does it because he's got it in his locker. Like Sonny can score those goals into the corners, And so Bentancur, even when he was, I can't remember which team it was against, it was very early on, defending in our own box. And we were in trouble. And he does a little step over. And, the guy just plays at a different level and it's created a composure. I think there's this chap who's been bringing in with great comments. I think his name is Aditya. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. His last name is Singh. And he was saying how he has a wonderful balance of Oh, there he is. There he is. Yeah. Talking about Ben Davis. But he was saying how his wonderful composure of aggression and composure, in one, a great combination. And so Bentancur has been, again, a transformative signing. So again, we address those positions. We all know what they are, where we're just not firing. And wow, we look like a team. And again, let's not forget the influence. So suddenly Højbjerg as well, with less responsibility and a little less ground to cover, can just do what he does and just collect the rubbish.
And there's no surprise that Højbjerg has looked a better player since Bentancur has been next to him, and you can see his levels going up.
For you, it's too much responsibility. Again, if you are the dustman, and he is, well, we don't expect you then to be also a concert violinist and a ballerina, and just collect the rubbish, mate. Yeah, and let Bentancur do all that. He's made a massive difference, a landmark signing for us again, and cheap.
Yeah, agree. I totally agree. Leon, coming over to you. Listen, as we mentioned, Bentancur really dominated most of that midfield. If we're being honest with you, he got a really great ovation when he came off from the Spurs fans. Højbjerg, I think, again today, a really good, solid performance. And again, Højbjerg this season has been judged as to whether he's going to be good enough for the future. I think from what I've seen from him this season, don't you agree, Leon? I think I'd still be more than comfortable of having Højbjerg as a squad player because you can tell he wants to win. He wants to win. And I'm all for having players that want to win and can still have some ability. I think there's still a player in there. Do you agree, Leon?
Yeah, 100%. Certainly a squad player. I think you need that competition all over the pitch. So let's face it, it's him and Skippy going head to head in the middle there. That's a great situation for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. And having him as a character around that group is only going to be positive. So I think there's a strong reason to keep him at the club. I've seen rumours of other clubs being interested in him. That's all good. That's part of football. But I hope we do keep him. And just quickly on Eric Dyer, did anyone else spot how loud his song was sang today?
Yes.
Yes. I hadn't heard that song for a long time at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So,
it was brilliant. And part of the reason why I'm a bit husky is because of that song. We sang it for quite a while, a few good verses of it, and it was nice. It was really nice to.
He's deserved it. He's deserved that based on his performances this season. He's deserved that, hasn't he?
Well, you would have dropped him at the beginning of the season.
Well, I would have dropped him. Listen, I'm not gonna lie. I would have dropped him.
No, it was all jokes aside. Yeah, he did. He's when he went down again. When he went down and he was down for a while, I think it was good game management, to be fair. But we were chatting in the stands thinking, hang on, we don't want to be losing him against Liverpool for the North London derby, do you? Do you know what I mean? So, again, it just goes to show you that the solidness of that back three that Romero's helped push up and whatever has been clear for us this year, for sure. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, Leon, but yeah, we were singing it hard. I really enjoyed that. It was a good song.
Yeah. Out of interest, Leon, just to stick with you very quickly, we are going to close the show with obviously the Bergwijn comments. But before we do, just talk to you on Ryan Sessegnon. For me, I still feel that he is hesitant. He's lacking confidence massively. And I'll come on to TJ as well and ask him as well about Sessegnon, because I think he's a player that does really polarize opinions. Some feel that with coaching, he's going to improve. Others feel that for whatever reason, he's just not going to get there. What's your opinion on Sessegnon? And do you think under Conte, he can coach him to improve as a player?
I mean, I was discussing this in the stands today, and my feeling is he doesn't trust his body. There's a confidence issue there, and I think it's linked to his physicality and the fact that he's had so many injuries for a young player. I just remember watching him back at Fulham, playing further forward in like a number 10 position. He's a really clever player, and he had that thing where I thought, right, I'd love him to come to Tottenham Hotspur. And we see flashes of it. The Leeds game away, he had a tremendous game in that. It was tremendous in that game from what I remember. There's a player there. There's absolutely a player there, but he's maybe not a first choice left wing back in that system. And I think we need to get to the bottom of him trusting his body. I think it's to do with that, because he's holding back. He's got that. He's got the handbrake on way too often. It needs to just let go, and I think that's his issue.
You know what's interesting, TJ? We've got some real complexities, haven't we, with the wing backs? Because the problem we've got is that Conte's system is designed based on the wing backs, and quite frankly, when you look at the options Spurs have got, Reguilon, I think for me, lacks a real end product, and defensively I think is quite suspect. Sessegnon, as we've mentioned, the hesitancy maybe, as Leon says, is trusting his body. Doherty, to be fair to him, came in, wasn't really rated that highly, but ended obviously his season only down to an injury, becoming Spurs' automatic first choice on obviously the right hand side of the flank. Emerson, we've got our issues with. Does it worry you, TJ? This is a big area that Spurs are going to have to try and sort come the summer, because we're talking about maybe 2 or 3 players that we're going to need to replace in just one area, which is the wing backs, which is so pivotal to the way Conte wants to play, of course, if he's going to be here.
It would worry me less if what we have right now wasn't so diabolically poor. It's less of a risk, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like if you're looking at your hand and you've got I got 3-9 unsuited here. You toss them and you hope you get something else. So they're just I don't see Sess, right? I just don't see it. I thought it was really fascinating actually what Leon was saying. Doesn't trust his body, and I thought that was a really succinct way of putting that as well. He has had this turgid time with injuries, and Lee's giving us a thumbs up there as well. And I think that you've probably hit the nail on the head there, mate, because he's a player that's just had so much hype around him, like with promise and he's this and he's that and he could be this, he could be that. I think he's 20. Is that right? Is he 20?
2021. I'll try and find out.
He's definitely not more than 21. So again, I'm thinking, well, maybe he can develop. But I'm also thinking we have to just start being a bit more mercenary with these guys. You were talking about that the Decky flick and everything, and ran out the pitch and everything. Dude, my heart breaks a little bit because the last player we had that would do that was Dele, right? And I adore Dele, and I can't stand that he comes on today at the 94th minute and runs around for 3 minutes and doesn't touch the ball. He's a broken player, right? But we should have let him go much sooner. And Winks, you should have let him go much sooner. So for me, if Sessegnon doesn't come good next season, ciao. Go play. Just don't have time for that. It's too competitive. In the Premier League, you've got 4 chairs and 6 big kids who are used to sitting in one of those chairs every single year. 2 of them are going to miss out. I don't want it to be us because we have sentimentality surrounding some players. If they're not showing it, like Leon said, competition for places is so important for the health and the progression of any football club, of any business. You've got to have people going, you know what, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that better and faster than him or her and cheaper. I promise you, give me a chance. We have to have that attitude. So if Sessegnon is not going to deliver, good luck to you, young man. Go play somewhere else. I know that there's better players. Look at that Cucurella guy.
Yeah, Cucurella, right? Yeah.
Guy looks like a 70s rock star, and he's walked straight into the Premier League, and he's absolutely lit it up. You know, he looks like an extra out of a blaxploitation movie. You know, and he's just come in and he's done the business. Are you telling me they're not out there? They're out there, man. They're out there, they're out there. You know, they're probably not in France. We don't seem to do very well with French players, but you know, they're out there. Ask frickin' Kulusevski. Any good players? Bentancur. Ask these guys. That's what I believe it was Moyes did with either Souček or Soufal. Like, who else do you like over there that I never heard of? And either one of them said the other one. You know, I can't remember which. Do a bit of that, man. Bring these guys in, and we have to say to these other guys, "I'm sorry, you're nice boys, but bye bye." Yeah,
no, I'm listening. Totally agree. We're going to close the show, guys, just on the comments that have come in the last hour from Stephen Bergwijn. So just to bring you obviously up to speed, Conte after the game was asked to comment on Bergwijn and obviously his situation where obviously he hasn't been playing on a regular basis since, of course, that very last minute brace against Leicester, which obviously TJ referred to earlier. Lee, we'll start with you. So Conte said it's difficult to keep him on the bench because maybe Stephen is a player who deserves more, but we must keep balance. He's a striker, but there's Harry, Sonny and Decky that give us quality and quantity, but maybe with Stephen, I'm giving him less than he deserves. Bergwijn was then asked by the Dutch press after the game about his future, and he said, a starting spot here, ? I don't think so, to be honest. It's a complicated story for me. I don't play much. Ajax could be an option for me. A return to the Netherlands could be an option for me. The World Cup is coming. What does the future hold for Stephen Bergwijn? Is it almost inevitable now that his future will lead away from the club come the summer transfer window, in your opinion?
Yes, I think it is. I think the club were close to selling him before. I think TJ mentioned it earlier when he got his very late brace against Leicester, and it was phenomenal. But again, taking that one game away and that phenomenal away, and he's been brilliant for the Dutch side as well. But that aside, he got the 5th against Newcastle this season, and in previous seasons he hasn't lit it up. I mean, if we're going to have not a pop, but if we're going to have it right about Lucas, we've got to have it right about Stephen Bergwijn as well, haven't we? And I think it takes a certain character. All the stuff Leon spoke about earlier, it takes a certain character to shift the mentality of a manager, but also shift somebody out of the team that's in front of you. Lots of people don't fancy shifting Kane, and probably rightly so. But if you back yourself and you know that you've got the ability and you're putting it in on the training ground, you back yourself to try and get into the side alongside a Kane or Son or Kulusevski or dare I say, oust them and get in the team themselves. What that means is that when you get your chance, you've got to take it. Some will say, well, Stephen Bergwijn did against Leicester, and he might have been a little bit unlucky. But if it's a big if, because we don't know, we haven't had enough cup games this season to give him time. You know, everyone knows what's happened in the cup games. No point going through it now at bloody 7 minutes to 2 hours. So I just think that listen, if Conte is going to be backed, you need to define back Conte. What is the definition of it? Some may say it's spend 300 million. Well, breaking news, that is not going to happen, by the way. So let's say that it's going to be, I don't know, 150 million. Some people might say 150 million, 200 million. That's back Conte. Some might say go and buy more Bentancurs and Kulusevskis because that's backing Conte exactly what he wanted. The point is that if Stephen Bergwijn can't get in the side under Conte now, then he's not going to get in the side under Conte via the summer. So therefore, if Ajax want him and we can get 30 million for him, thank you very much for your time, Stephen. Go and thrive in the Dutch league. We'll take that 30 million and we'll reinvest it in somebody that Conte wants that can get in the side, because that's the way that we're going to continue to back Conte, in my opinion. So there's my thoughts on it, mate. But by the way, I like Stevie. Yeah. I've got nothing against the player. I like Stevie, and I actually think who am I to question Conte? God forbid, Jesus, Lee McQueen. But I would have thought that he would have been playing more, and I also would have thought that he would have been given time in a slightly different position. If you're never going to take Kane off, like if Kane's not hitting the mark 70 minutes, right? Bring on Steven Bergwijn. If you think that Steven Bergwijn is a striker and Kane's the striker, we'll switch it out. But no one does. Not Conte, not Nuno, not Jose, not Poch. No one ever does. They never drop Kane even for 20 minutes. They don't do it. So that's the problem. Yeah. And, he's got to go on, hasn't he?
I wondered, TJ, coming over to you, and we are promising, guys, listen, thank you so much. 2 hours of your time and 2 hours of these guys, the wonderful analysis they've given us tonight. Absolutely loved it. There's been 700, 800 of you in total watching us live, so thank you so much for your incredible support. TJ, are we missing an opportunity here with Bergwijn? Is there more to him than what we're seeing, and are we going to regret this if we let him go in the summer, in your opinion?
Yes, I'm a big fan of his, and again, like Lee said, I'd never argue with Antonio. I think he's a Premier League player. Like, some players come in and you just say, you're just not Premier League. Lo Celso, you're not a Premier League player, mate. Just not. Ndombele, you're not a Premier League player. They cost a lot more money than Bergwijn, right? And I was happy to see them go. I think he's a Premier League player. Like I said, he reminds me of Jermaine in the way that he can turn, and just that explosion of acceleration, like he gets off the mark. You can't hang with the guy. Why he hasn't been tried at a wing-back position? Maybe Conte feels like he just doesn't know enough about the defensive side of the game. But for me, I'd rather invest in him than Sessegnon. Teach him how to do that, because I just think he's so powerful and he's explosive. And also the guy can score goals. Sessegnon or Reguilon, they couldn't hit a cow's ass with a banjo. But this guy knows where the back of the net is. And I think he would have the discipline to defend if you could teach him. Again, like Lee said, I don't know. I'm not watching them in training. But for me, I think he's worth the investment. However, if he goes and we get 30 million and we buy in somebody like Cucurella for 20 million, we wouldn't give a second thought to Steven Bergwijn. So it's a tough thing. The one thing that I will say, and it's more of a question rather than a statement, is when do we become the club where players like that are happy to sit on the bench? Like I was talking about Liverpool earlier. When do we become that club? Is it because we need to win things and be consistently top four? Is that what it is? And that's how I'll finish this. And I guess I'll open that up to you guys. But when do we become that club where a player like Steven Bergwijn would never dream of leaving Tottenham, and I'll play in the cup games and I'll do this and I'll do that. And if Son gets injured, then I'll come in and do a job happily, fucking James Milner for 50 years or however old he is now. When do we become that club?
It's a great point. Again, a lot of people reacting to that. I mean, let's ask you as we close the show now. Over to you, Leon. Should we be that club now that are quite, I would say, stubborn and are forthright in their views that, if we want to compete, we're going to have players that are comfortable to sit on the bench and push those in the first team? Is Bergwijn just not mentally that kind of character that will be up for that fight? Does he have to be playing, full first team football to be content at the club?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Bergwijn's not done enough for me personally to be, I don't know, anywhere near starting. I think he's had some chances. I think Nuno played him a bit, didn't he? So he had a bit of a run under Nuno. I mean, for me, can we loan him back out and take a view off the back of that? Because he's certainly got better. He's certainly got better, 100%. But for me, I'm not sure he's done enough. And interesting, in the comments, we're mentioning Anthony here. Anthony has got the same, and this is Anthony at Ajax. He's got the same agent as Lucas Moura. So
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, interesting. So and he's had a very, very good season with Ajax. Man United heavily linked to him. Would be interesting if there was something doing there. But let's see. So yeah. players, yeah, look at Liverpool. They just do it so well. You know, you mentioned it earlier. Jota, Origi, you know, the players are there. You look at their bench, the rotation is there, or enough of it to keep them interested. That's down to man management, and that's down to the manager having a strategy. And Conte is a world-class manager. That's what he's getting paid for.
Final question I'm going to ask you guys. You've given us...
Stephen Bergwijn, 57 appearances in the league, 57, 7 goals and 5 assists in 57 appearances. Now, this is the thing. Like, I do love stats, you know, the blue book and whatever, and everyone knows that. And sometimes stats don't say the full picture. But come on, 57 appearances, scores 7 times. That's appalling. That's worse than Lucas's record. And we were just bantering him out of the club. So look, I think at the end of the day, the other question you've got to ask, you mentioned TJ, I think it's a fantastic point. How many times are we going to have these players sitting on the bench? I don't even think he gets on Liverpool's bench. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, Diego Jota, he is absolute class. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, he's way, a class above, if you like.
But is he happy to sit there, Lee, because he knows he's going to win trophies? I think that maybe is an element of it as well.
I don't think you can say that either, because no club knows they're going to win trophies. I know where you come from. I'm being a bit facetious, but you know, Liverpool aren't guaranteed to be winning trophies. They're probably going to win them all this year, but hopefully they won't, because we're going to beat them next week. Hopefully, who knows? But look, the point being is that you don't know that you're going to win a trophy, but it's the way the club's set up. Don't rephrase the question. Does Diego Jota want to play every week? Yes,
I'm sure he does. Absolutely.
He does. Of course he does. Of course they all do. But the difference being is that he probably puts up with it because he knows he's got these boys in front of him, like the Salahs and the Manes or whatever, he's coming into it. But when he's given his chance, he doesn't have 57 appearances and scores 7 goals, does he? He comes in and has 12 appearances and scores 7 goals, and that's the difference. Yeah, that is the difference.
Yeah, guys. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to close the show with probably a question that you don't want to answer. So I will apologise in advance. And I'll start with Leon on this. Leon, Anfield next Saturday evening. Would you give us any hope of getting anything up there?
Of course. This is Conte ball. It's perfect for Conte ball. And that is the reason why we have a chance. They ain't going to be worrying about Kane dropping into the 10 position. They ain't going to be worrying about what we're doing. And actually, that's when we're at our best. Manchester City, go and watch that game back.
It's doable. Leon, it's doable, yeah? You believe it's doable?
100% for me. And I might be crazy, but that's why I support Spurs, probably. Keep going back.
Honestly, it's been such a pleasure having you, Leon. Thank you so much. Leon, just so we stick with you, where can we find you across the socials? Where can we find your work?
Twitter's the main place. Instagram, ignore that because that's just putting pictures of my family and stuff up. But at Leon_man on Twitter. Hopefully I talk some sense occasionally on there.
Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. There's been, again, record number watching us live. So thank you so much as always for your incredible support. TJ, man, have I missed you. And I know the audience has missed you as well. I keep having the messages. Bring Leon and TJ back. We're going to try. We haven't got enough games. I promise you, if there was more cup games, we would make it happen. TJ, it's such a pleasure, my man. TJ, tell us about Liverpool. What do you give us? Do you give us any hope up there, honestly?
Yes, I absolutely do. And I concur with Leon that not only does it, the way that they play, is suitable for the way that we play under Conte. And also, like we discussed earlier, there's no point trying to search for rationale or pragmatism in football, especially in the Premier League. And also, Liverpool are so successful. Could they become victims of their own success? They're being pulled in all different directions right now. We have a singular focus. And so that could possibly play into our advantage. If we went up there and nicked a draw, I would be delighted. And I think that's within our wheelhouse. Thanks for having me back on the show, mate. I'm a big fan, and it's lovely to see you and to listen to you and to Lee and to Leon as well. And all the lovely comments and stuff. It's really an honour and a privilege to be a part of it. And I very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, well, mate, lovely to have you back on. We're wishing you all the best. Leon, TJ, very quickly, where can we find you across socials? Where can our listeners engage with you more if they wish?
Probably Twitter, I think, is probably the best way to engage, because it's not, just pictures of people's sandwiches and things. I don't know why people post things. Oh, look what I have for breakfast. I've seen an egg before, mate. Twitter, just at TJ Ramini, and I'd be happy to. I love talking Spurs with on Twitter, so I always read out and say hello.
Isn't he great? Wonderful, TJ Ramini. Been lovely having him back on. Lee, to close it with you. What a stupid question. I'm going to ask you, we've got a chance against Liverpool. Like, you're going to tell me we're not going to have a chance. Are we going to have a chance against Liverpool, Lee? This is a redundant question.
We've got no chance. Look, I'll be honest with you. We played 59 times in the league. We've won twice away at Anfield. I think we can go up there and give it all I've got. The problem that I've got is that, this is going to sound ridiculous, that beating Arsenal was more important than beating Liverpool, even though we have to get points out of both games, because otherwise it could be over. I think we've got enough to get a draw. I think we played well against them earlier in the season against us. The last time we went up there, and I think somebody said it earlier in the comments, Bergwijn hit the post and he missed a sitter. Maybe football's got a funny way of showing it after we've just sold Bergwijn, or I have. Maybe Bergwijn comes off the bench against Liverpool and gets the winner. Absolute pandemonium at Anfield. Let's make it happen. But I don't know. Let's see. I'm not confident. I was absolutely adamant that we was not going to win at City. So I've gone into with the same mindset. It's not negative. It's just a kind of a superstition mindset to go. Yeah. Let's just think that nothing's going to happen at Liverpool. And if something does, massive bonus. But we will still get top four, because Arsenal will drop points against Newcastle United, and we will batter them at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We owe them. They absolutely rinsed us at their place 3-0. Absolutely mauled us. Everybody should be watching that game again, fans included, before we get to that stadium, because we owe them absolute big time. And to turn them over in the North London derby and then go and nick fourth off them as well, which, by the way, we've changed our manager in November. We should be nowhere near the top four, nowhere near it, but we are. And to do it will be sweet as. So come on, you Spurs.
I love it. Can I just say, this is what happens when you get three unbelievable talkers on, that we're going up over 2 hours. Honestly, thank you so much for all your incredible support from Leon, from TJ, from Lee, from myself. Guys, please keep safe, keep well. And as always, keep the faith, and come on, you Spurs.